World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Hello and welcome everyone to this evening's casual race here at Istanbul Park. GT4 cars, and two of them of quite long distances, when they were released. The Nissan 370Z from 2010 and of course the Alpine A110 GT4 released in 2018. I'm here with Simon. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, can't complain. I mean, we've got a great 1 hour race up ahead of us. 15 drivers with us here with these two very different cars, even though they're supposed to be the same class. But that's the beauty of GT4. So many different car concepts and of course different approaches. And these two cars, I think, are a perfect example of that.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see how they stack up against each other and how the drivers handle the different challenges each car brings.
Absolutely. Of course, the Alpine will be a couple seconds faster because simply it is a much more modern car. It's a lot better developed, and the downforce regulations and what has been allowed with downforce over some time in GT4 has of course been revamped a little bit over time. So of course the Alpine with a smaller engine with less power of course, but an over 200 kilogram weight advantage, and of course the more modern and sophisticated aerodynamics, going to be looking to be the faster car here with a mid-engine 1.8 liter inline-4 turbo.
Yes, should be very interesting to see. Because obviously you said they're a bit dated now, 2018 and 2010, but always fun to see them on track, always fun to see them racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And mentioned 2010, Nissan 370Z, so quite honestly, I grew up with, Need for Speed Underground or something like that, and 350Z, so the 370Z is still in my mind, still new to me, so 2010, over 11 years ago now. Pretty crazy, but wonderful car, naturally aspirated of course, and an over twice as big engine, 3.7 liter V6 with 420 horsepower, and of course a front-mounted engine, so completely different car dynamics here as well.
Definitely, it's going to be, obviously you see the handling characteristics in the corners, they're going to be very different. The Alpine may be more stable on traction, where the 370Z is going to have more turn-in. Yeah,
absolutely. And, speaking of stable and stability and different characteristics and all that stuff, first of all, different things coming up, casual races, and of course the HyperX Open Series races that we're still anticipating for the next couple months. And of course, you know, everyone here, everyone watching, everyone seeing this later maybe with our esteemed broadcasting partners, ESTV, Motorsport TV, and TVM Sport, of course. You're always free to join these casual races that are coming up. For example, I saw a Formula 3 race being in the planning, so quite interesting there, of course. And, you know, as long as you're a clean driver, as long as you can play by the rules, we have FIA-accredited stewards here and very professional running, of course. But you're always welcome to join here, whether you are making your first steps or whether you're already quite established in sim racing.
Yes, that's right. I think there is a Formula 3 event going on next Wednesday, and this Friday there should be another installment of the HyperX series, which will be very exciting to see. Always have fun races with both of those.
Absolutely. And of course, you know, you're wondering, well, joining this, you know, these spectacles, joining these events, how much does it cost? You know, there's got to be a catch, but there isn't one. It's absolutely free. So if you want to test your racecraft, this is the perfect place to start testing it, or maybe to start developing it a bit further.
Definitely, especially, you know, World Pro Racing has kind of etched out the brand for themselves as being an educational institute first, and so having that ability for anyone to join free of charge, all you need is a console and the game. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can go on track now with our wonderful cars here. As we said at the beginning, Istanbul Park, so quite a track that we haven't seen too much of in the last couple of years in World Motorsport, but you know, the shock return last year in the 2020 F1 season with rather slidey ground, but here we have a bit more grip, so let's see how the guys are tackling this track.
Is that a good thing? Is more grip a good thing? Because as we saw from Formula 1, the less grip those cars had, the more entertaining that race got.
I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, you know, actually to wear the track in a bit more, I think they actually kept driving normal road cars around the track for the entire night to rubber the track in a little bit more because, you know, the new surface was still just so slidey.
I heard that,
absolutely incredible.
I heard the same thing, but then it rained the day after, so all that hard work and all those poor people's long night kind of left a naught. But
yeah, I mean, you know,
no rain here at our online Istanbul Park, as we see two similar livery cars going around, nice and bright pink.
Absolutely, and also quite nice to see we've got a rather evenly spread field with both classes here. So we can see, I think those are probably going to be 7 to 8, maybe 9 Alpines, and at least 5 of the Nissan 370Zs, of course, as well, as they're now making their way around turn 5 and turn 6 with Christian Sharp here. And you know, you and I both know they're coming up to the most entertaining part of the circuit, because next up we've got that long right-hander uphill, a little bit on camber, a little bit off camber when you get out of it. But then here we come now to that long left-hander, 4 apexes, the never-ending story of motorsport, yes. Turn 8.
The Turkey Turn 8, the very famous Turkey Turn 8. It is such an interesting corner, and I'm glad to see it being inspiring many corners on newer tracks, because it's just so much fun to watch. It's so much fun to drive around. It's amazing.
I told you this story before we started the broadcast here, but you know, I used to race here in the Virtual Endurance Championship in LMP2, and our team also had an LMP1 car, and with around 20 GTE cars on the track. My team was Oscar Hartwig, actually lovingly called it GT Bingo back then, because basically you went full send and, well, try your best to make your way around the track without having a little incident there, without touching any of the GTE cars. But, you know, if something happened, something happened.
Yeah, see, going full send and if you make the corner, you make the corner was my tactic on F1 2011 back when I was a child. And I'm absolutely safe to say I would do the same thing today. So, is that character growth? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully the rest of my driving has gotten better, but that one turn, no, it has not.
I mean, you know, of course, very, very tough on the tires, and I think especially in this 1-hour race today, this is going to be something that we're going to have to be paying a lot of attention to, simply because you just need to stay so consistent with your grip there. You can just have the rear end slide a bit wide over the curb, because obviously on the outside curb, you still need to take some of that space there to get more momentum through the apexes. But it's also very, very difficult, of course, to like keep that form up precisely the entire time with, well, consistent grip over wearing tires over 1 hour. As we see the 370Zs here, you can see almost 6 seconds slower per lap. So the test of time really showing the difference there. 5 seconds difference, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So obviously it is a multi-class race, so we're expecting the 370Z to be a little slower over a single lap and also over race distance. It'll be interesting to see throughout the 1 hour race how the different speeds interact with each other, how the cars have to navigate each other and essentially focus on their own races.
Absolutely. I think this is also like just a very, very interesting comparison. You know, we always have it that over a certain time, racing just gets faster and faster and faster. I mean, the best example would probably be with, well, with GT3 as well. We used to have this. Oh, what was it? They had this BOP, basically constantly slowing the cars down again and again and again around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And the initial lap records, I think, with the MP4-12C McLaren, set by Kevin Estra, I think in like 2009, 2010, 809. So incredibly quick.
Yeah, definitely.
And they still went under that with less power, but just, you know, so much more downforce later, even though the cars are on the Nordschleife way, way higher and you know, further away from the ground, and therefore generating less downforce over the split end underbody than they normally would on normal tracks, simply because the track is just so bumpy. And GT4 cars have had the exact same thing. You have so much more downforce nowadays, so much more sophisticated systems, and basically back then in 2010, you still had these cars here, the Nissan 370Z, pretty much just the road car, except with a roll cage, a wing, and you know, maybe a little bit more weight removed, because this is still 1,300 kilos. This is still almost as heavy as the normal road car. And then the Alpine actually, I think actually the Alpine got made heavier, because otherwise it wouldn't have gotten homologated for GT4, because it's just such a tight, you know, such a little nimble and fast car. I think it's actually like only 950 kilos as the normal road car.
Wow. I've always wanted a little Renault Alpine, like one of the classic like 80s rally cars, the tiny little things. There's just something about them. They're so comically small compared to every other car in existence. They're delightful.
Absolutely. I mean, even nowadays, you know, when you compare them to the BMW M4 GT4, you know, it's just a bus compared to this thing. So it's just absolutely incredible to look at. When you can see, you know, the BMW obviously pulling ahead on the straight, then on the brakes, the Alpine is right up the tailpipes of that thing and, you know, trying to make a move to the inside, because the Alpine, with weighing, I think, 350 kilos less, they're just so much better on the brakes, of course.
It's kind of ironic to think that Alpine has such a brand for like the smaller, more nimble cars, when if you think back to the preseason testing of Formula 1, they were known for that really bulky airbox that they brought. Oh god, that feels like it was 3 years ago, but it wasn't. It was March. That is a terrifying thought.
Meanwhile, speaking of other things that are long, they are putting a quite long slide there.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what I meant earlier here. You just have to really... you have to really look out there. Overall, you know, how to get the grip down. And, you know, just rejoining the track there over that grass stripe, are almost losing it and actually a bit overshooting this chicane here as well of turn 9 and 10.
He's taking the touring car lines around this track on this particular lap. If he does that too much in the race, we might have an issue, but interesting to see Kurt Nabea's interpretation of what Turkey could be.
I mean, it would be quite a lot faster racing track then. But,
I mean, yeah. You know, I feel like all racing tracks get perpetually faster when you just don't brake for the chicanes.
My best example of Monza from the 60s, where it was just straight on, and, you know, then you have another extra lap on the oval.
Yeah. You go back to, like you're saying, 1960s Monza, 1960s Spa, and you're just like, how on earth did no one stop to think, hey, maybe this isn't the safest thing we've ever done? It's kind of terrifying. It makes us glad to have all the safety devices we have now.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, like, I always like to think that at some point, you know, because Spa, it literally went through a village with that 13.5 kilometer layout. and
Yeah.
you know, it literally just drove past housing. Like you had quite a few instances of F1 cars just crashing into some poor person's house, you know, who was just living there. And I just like to think that at some point, you know, a guy is just coming out of the front door going, "Oh yes, Margaret, I'm gonna go pick up some groceries." Steps out the front door, closes the door, and then just gets the living everything scared out of him by a car just flying by at 300 kilometers an hour, and he's just going, "Oh right, the Grand Prix was this weekend."
I tell you what, that gives a new meaning to the term jaywalking. Jeez. You're going for your nightly stroll with, you know, you got your shopping in one hand, your phone in the other, and you just suddenly 200-mile-an-hour Formula 1 car that barely has any control to it, just, you know, a meter from your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I will say though, those tracks, you see them on, you know, they're very thankfully been kept alive on sim racing games, and it's so much fun to watch them, to watch cars that were never suited to the track drive around them. I was a few weeks ago watching a modern 2020 Formula 1 car tackle the classic Spa, and it's just hilarious. Like, none of those tires were... It at no point had all 4 tires on the ground. They were always hitting some bump and just... or a curb or something. It was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you can basically make a little parody of a line from Back to the Future there, where we're going, we don't need braking points. And, you know... But, you know, quite frankly, this is also... We just had a very nice display there, as we saw Hans Hanus behind one of the Nissan 370Zs, coming through turn 8 there. You could see how much he was closing the gap, even though, you know, overall, the cars are not too different with weight, you know, obviously 220 kilograms difference, and the Nissan has 60 horsepower more. But Nissan, obviously a way older car, I think also completely no driving aids back in the day.
Oh wow.
And, you know, the Alpine just, with the weight advantage it has, and with that bit more downforce that it has from the newer wings and everything, just flying into, almost into the back of the Nissan 370Z there, as I think Kirsten Bayard was barely hanging on to dear life coming through turn 8 there. So just really, really fun to watch that grip difference.
Yeah, I kind of hinted to this earlier, but it'll be interesting to see in the actual race how cars are going to have to check up behind slower cars, or how one of the 370Zs will have to maybe compromise their line to let one of the Alpines go. So if you're in a close battle, you could have a car getting really slowed down by someone in a different class.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just so difficult, I think, you know. You have, of course, you know, a 5 second, or well, by now, 4.7 second lap difference, as Jack Nolla is, you know, bringing the Nissan to new heights now, but Hans Hanus also 5/10 faster there. He's really just, well, I think he's basically gotten all the sandbags out of the boot now, and is now just trying to get it straight that, okay, this is definitely more than 5 seconds of a gap per lap for this car. Sector 2, let's see. Gained a couple of thousands there again, and
Yeah.
Christ.
I feel like this might be one of those laps that he's setting just to intimidate the others. Like, I can do this, your turn.
Absolutely, and you know that's what we're always referring to as, you know, the mind games, and it's just so they love to do it. You know, no matter if it's a real racing driver or a sim racer, everyone's doing race practice, and you know, of course, just that one little time you just have to pack out all the ballast you have in the car, and you just go, oh yeah, by the way, I'm also doing race pace, by the way, but yeah, 6 seconds now the gap. Unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, you say the drivers love to play the mind games. It's not like we're not any better, because we all love to watch it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's the peak form of entertainment.
Absolutely. We've all been on Twitter watching, like, reading the latest shade that Max Verstappen has thrown to Lewis Hamilton, or vice versa. You know, it's just, it's part of the fun of a close title fight, or a close fight in general.
Absolutely. But a lot of counters still there.
Definitely.
Look at this thing actually has traction control. So he's just running it on lowest, just trying to keep the interference minimal, absolutely. And, you know, just... I don't think the tires will last that long with that, Hans.
No, probably not. That's an interesting talking point, you know, looking into the race. It's an hour-long race. So obviously strategy is going to play a massive part. You can either take a lighter fuel, pit halfway, and for just alpha fuel and tires, or maybe take the full race fuel and then focus on tires only. So it's interesting to see how strategy plays a part in each driver's race plan.
Oh, absolutely. And normally these cars can make over an hour of race distance on one fuel tank. However, obviously, I think the maximum fuel capacity for the Alpine should be around 95 liters. And of course, that 1.8 liter inline-4 turbo, it doesn't use that much fuel, so it should make over an hour, but it's still, comparably to the strategy of you're just taking half fuel, you're making it to the halfway point, then you pit, get new tires. That's still 40 kilos less around that you carry less, and in that case, you just still gain so much more speed still through turn 8, for example. And you've really got to look then if it's maybe worth pursuing that,
Definitely. It's really a question of, is the time you make up on track worth the time you lose in the pit stops? Because obviously you have to factor in all the other drivers, if there's going to be traffic, if you're going to have to overtake a lot of cars. It's always these like fun, interesting strategies. We see it in real racing, we see it here. It's really, really interesting.
Absolutely. And just thinking here again, you can see also Jack Noller, still pushing very, very hard as well as Dean Vella as well. They're just really pushing on the limit with the tires, so I think the Nissans will definitely have to come in for a stop, or they will run actually into the risk of perhaps blowing a tire. And obviously, you'd rather lose a bit of time in a pit stop to make sure that the tire actually survives. Oh well, to make sure that you get a new tire that survives the race,
Definitely.
Well, it's just such a difficult call to make, You just have to be really, really confident in the practice that you've done, in the testing that you've done, and, well, in your racecraft as well.
For sure, you really need to be aware. You also it's a question of being aware of what the other drivers are doing and trying to suss out their strategy so you can inform your own through that. If you can tell through practice and qualifying that most drivers are going to take a larger fuel tank and a shorter stop, it might be worth, if you're maybe starting 4th or 5th, to go for the opposite strategy and just gamble on that being the right one.
Absolutely, and you can just see how much the weight is just carrying the Nissan out more and more and more. Really interesting, actually. In F1, you accelerate and you just stop accelerating for a bit, just keeping it off full throttle for a little bit. But you never actually go onto the brake. These cars here, they actually have to brake into turn 8 to be able to make it around, simply because they just don't have the downforce and the mechanical grip to support them going flat out through that corner. But the same goes actually for the Alpine here, except of course a lot less weight carrying it to the outside through the G-forces and more downforce, and of course, also newer tires.
Yeah, and also it's in 8 years, obviously the chassis won't be too much different, but the differences they will make them a lot more stable through those corners, especially under high stress, which Turkey 10-8 is incredibly known for.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's very easy to just underestimate or well, actually no, not overestimate, just underestimate how much difference tires can make. Let's put it like this. GT3 tires, for example, the Pirelli tires are used in a lot of spec series, so everyone has the same tire there. Mm-hmm. Everyone uses the Pirelli compounds for the sprint series of the SRO or for the endurance series as well. And in other series, for example, GT Open or just a couple other series like I think Dutch Supercar or also VLN or something, they use Michelin tires or Yokohama tires. And in GT Open a couple years ago, actually, I think David Perel did a 213 or a 214 with Michelin GT3 tires, and then you compare that to the Pirelli tire lap times in GT3 in the same car, which are around 2 to 3 seconds slower around Spa-Francorchamps, and that's just the tires. And of course, a little bit of BOP, but the majority is just, how much the tires will actually give you, how much the tires will give you grip and how long they'll keep that up.
Definitely. Again, an hour-long race, that's something the drivers are going to have to be considering, because obviously, the more you stress these tires, the more they're going to wear, and the less grip you're going to have. So towards the maybe middle of a stint, towards the end of each stint, we're going to be seeing drivers making more mistakes, running wide a bit more, and track limits could be a very big part if a driver maybe misjudges the braking point one too many times and runs wide around that corner.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's just so difficult to always gauge that properly, as we have the Vela here. Now with the big advantage, the big advantage of the Nissan, of course, being that it has 60 horsepower more. So out of a corner sometimes, if the Nissan gets a clean launch and the Alpine doesn't get one, the Alpine will actually be under threat from the Nissan up until that braking point, where of course the superior braking power and lower weight comes into play. And of course a little bit more agile, a little bit newer tires. And yeah, in these slower corners you could see how that Alpine there just pulled a bit of a gap again on Dean Vella.
Definitely. I think it'll be interesting to watch maybe the more experienced or more mature drivers in the 370Zs. They might resist that attack. They might, even if they know where their Nissan is stronger in a traction zone, for example, they might not go for any. They might not try anything to preserve their own race and focus on their own finishing position.
Yeah, that could very well be. I mean, one of the big parts, especially in multi-class racing, is you have to know when and how to pick your fights. Because it's very, very easy to just, see a car in front of you, you want to battle it, you want to just get past immediately. But especially in multi-class racing, when you're moving through traffic, and for example, you're in the faster car here, like with the Alpine, if you just go for the wrong gap, for example, you could very quickly just run into the risk of a crash, the risk into a spin, for example, as well. And, well, first of all, if you're a bit over-eager and, end up crashing into a slower class car, our stewards will very, very quickly have a look at that. And, Adrian Fegaio and George Muscat will just be thinking, well, I mean, A for effort, but F for execution. And then very quickly you'll find yourself with a drive-through penalty or something along the lines.
Memories of my Maltese exam. Not the drive, not the drive-through penalty. That would have been an interesting grading system, but no, the other part.
A for effort, F for execution.
Precisely. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously we talk about the tires. We talk about this multi-class racing. How many times have we seen in real racing, like physical racing, for example, Le Mans, where a faster car has just gotten too impatient behind one of the slower classes, gone for a move that absolutely should not have gone for, and just either lost too much time or even crashed.
I'd say we see that about at least once per hour, or twice or three times per hour per year in a 24-hour race, so we see that quite often. Luckily, a lot of drivers in the slower cars are very aware, of course, of their surroundings as well. And, most of the LMP2 drivers, I'd say nowadays, because I think nowadays LMP2 and GTE, they're probably the most, the cars that have the most difficulties, because the LMP2s got slowed down a little bit as well for the hypercar class this year.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where we see the most contact points there, but, no matter in what race class you are, no matter whether virtual or real, you always have these conflict points. So it's always very, very elemental that you just keep out of trouble all the time as much as you can. And, well, sometimes that just isn't possible.
Of course, in all racing, regardless of what it is, you need to have that spatial awareness to know to give another car enough space, enough racing room. If you currently start jumping all over the track and cutting people's noses off, you're going to end up in a crash, and you're going to end up ruining other people's races. And as we said earlier, our FIA accredited stewards will have a lovely little word after the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes even during the race. And, I mean, we have had it before, that, one of the drivers caused enough incidents to actually warrant a disqualification in a race. And, of course, that's basically the last stop they pull. But, that's basically the signal of, mate, you've been a little bit too aggressive today. For now, park it, rethink a couple of your strategies, look back at stuff, and, obviously try to come back from it, because, just because you get disqualified once, for example, doesn't mean that no one wants you around here. This is, as you said, a learning institution. This is where, our stewards will basically just go, okay, you made these mistakes, think about what you did, you know, try to find out how you could do it better, and then come back here, you know?
Definitely, you know, keeping in the theme of high school memories, it's the equivalent of a teacher sending a kid out of class to think about what they've done before letting them back in.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, as you know, obviously we always encourage clean racing. We always want all our drivers to respect each other and respect the decisions made by the stewards, and we're very lucky that, on the most part, I'd say a good 99% of them do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we have the last couple minutes now of free practice before we go into that 50-minute qualifying session before our 1-hour race. And luckily we still have a rather open, I'd say a rather open grid, you know, not too many cars, so people should have no problems finding their own space, so to say. As Anton Gonzalez actually closes 6/10 of a gap there, and judging from his, well, actually, because obviously the number 1 part there, the number 1 sector in the bottom right was yellow. He can actually gain a lot more time there still.
Yeah.
But you know, that's always the wonderful thing to see. You know, the longer you have some practice and stuff here, the more you can just see people also improve and improve and improve. And that's actually Jack Noller improving another 4/10. So, oh boy.
Yeah, that is, again, I mentioned earlier, that is what we call a statement. But you know, if we're looking at the timing tower on the left of your screen, up at the top, Hannes has a 1.5 second gap at the moment. I imagine that will close towards the end of practice and through qualifying. But for where it is now, that is an incredible gap. Like, he must have put in a very, very good lap to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and another one, just a couple of thousands off, up, I mean, into that hard braking zone at turn 12, and now 13 and 14. There we are, with that right flick there, and also just such a difficult place to get right, because you just want to get yourself carried wide properly, but then you have to get into the next corner, and it's just really, really tight around there. Someone actually improved in the middle sector for that class, but still, Jack Noller bringing the gap back down to 5 seconds difference between the classes, and definitely showing there. Well, you guys haven't quite finished us off yet,
No.
as Dean Vella also goes up in time and is only 3/10 off of that.
Yes, in case anyone missed it, for just a brief few seconds, Dean Vella went into P1 of the GT4 370Z class by 6/10, and then Jack Noller finished his lap to go 3/10 faster. That was an absolutely amazing lap from Noller.
Yeah, really, really clean all the way through, and Alex Trahorn actually improving now to a 2nd place. Really nicely done from him, with green sectors all around.
Still
Obviously
1.2 seconds off though. Still has a massive
Yeah.
gap to make up to Hannes.
Yeah, this is the big question though now. Like, is he maybe still with a bit more fuel in the car for the last ditch effort here now? Because, of course, you know, we now have 1 minute 40 left. And that is a little bit deep into the corner, maybe a bit distracted by that bright green Nissan parking it there. But really have to think about now if it's... Oh, actually,
A big
really wide... That is new.
That was, I think the rear end got loose, so he was in a all out of shape going into the following corner. As you see, another slide there from, I believe, Jack Noller. Not improving on this time, so I think he might get. He'll probably have a chance to get another run in if he so wishes. But yeah, this one does not seem. Yeah, this is significantly slower than his previous. Dean Vella on a decent lap, faster in the first sector, not as fast in the second. As he comes around the final couple corners, we'll see how he stacks up. Currently in 2nd place, 3/10 behind Jack Noller in his class.
And Dean Vella now coming across the line as well. A bit of an improvement. No, not improvement after all. Middle sector time loss was just a little bit too big there. But yeah, and Alex Trahorn actually not quite able to improve there as well, because he actually got an off-track warning, so therefore the lap is invalid. Corentin Berges actually on a full self-improvement as well. Currently in 5th place in class.
Ooh, a bit of a slide there across the apex. These Alpines do not look like they're the steadiest cars. We've seen a lot of them sliding around, losing the back end just on the out of traction, so it should be interesting to see if anyone pushes it too far, especially in qualifying on their final push laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually moves up to 4th place now, Bergis. And as you said, you know, they're very, very lively cars. Of course, a light car with pretty much almost 50-50 weight distribution, so very, very agile, especially in these shorter, twistier sections there. Like, as we are coming here now, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, and of course also the last 3 corners, turn 12, 13, and 14. It's so difficult to get the car properly settled through that, but it just helps you quite a lot to just get the car positioned perfectly, while the Nissan, of course, is fighting a lot more with understeer, but maybe a little bit more stability overall.
Definitely. I think, for me, the most interesting part of that practice session was, at the end of it, despite drivers improving, specifically Alex Strayhorn, Hannes still had a 1.2 second gap, which is honestly massive. I can't imagine he'll keep that same gap in qualifying, but to have that early pace and to have a lap that's such a statement and such a message to all the other drivers, it'll be really interesting to see what he can pull in qualifying.
Absolutely, but we also have to keep in mind R-Factor 2, of course, revolutionary for its physics engine, and of course the railroad technology as well. The longer cars drive on that track, the more it gets rubbered in completely dynamically, and the more grip will be there in the end. So really, really good there. That will get more and more grip for the other drivers as well, and to maybe see if maybe he was able to be that far ahead because he's just getting along better with lower end grip. Like we saw, for example, last year in F1 qualifying, Lance Stroll get a pole position out of nowhere, just getting along better with the lower end grip. Or maybe, he's quite as comfortable still, but the other drivers can just close that down a little bit more, simply because they are just able to extract more pace from the car, simply because it's more settled on the rear end.
Definitely. We were just talking about how the Alpine is very lively, maybe a bit looser on the rear end. So as that grip improves across the whole track, the lap times are going to drop. The drivers are going to be more confident to push it. So I do imagine the gap will close significantly. Will it be enough for someone else to displace him for a pole position? There's a 15-minute qualifying session to be the judge of that one.
Absolutely, and 15 minutes, it's quite comfortable time to set a lap or two, but considering, it's still, at best, probably, I would say that we're not going to see anyone breach the 2-minute barrier. We're not going to see a 1:59, I think, quite comfortably. It's still a lot of time investment. You have to get out, do the out lap, then get the, the actual timed lap in, and of course, if you then mess up, you have to do an entire out lap again. So it's going to be really, really a big competition to be just on point. Maybe get a bit of slipstream from a Nissan along the way as well, if you're very lucky, or from another fellow Alpine. But to be just absolutely perfectly nailed down for the entire lap, I think that's going to be completely just imperative for a good qualifying position here.
Definitely, as we go onto the track, mistakes are going to be costly, and we join immediately the leader of practice, Hans Hannes, going around turn 1, quite nice and casual. So he's absolutely the most, I don't want to say intriguing driver so far. He's the one who has laid the gauntlet so far as the person to beat. So as we get times from Alex Strayhorn and Christian Sharp, we'll have to see how they stack up and how the gaps fall.
And we can see them here now. Already 12 minutes in, so we just, we managed to skip past. We managed to skip past the formation lap. No, not quite that yet. The out lap. There we are. Yes. And we see the first purple sector. Of course, one of the first sectors in general here of the entire qualifying sessions for Hans Hannes with 45.656, and you can just hear how he's just backing off of the throttle quite a lot. Actually, I don't think he's braking whatsoever. So this is one of the big spaces where I think the Alpine just gains a lot of time against the Nissans, simply because it just doesn't have that need to brake.
Definitely. He has to be careful on those track limits, though. He was very close to going over the white line, and this is the track limits on this game are unforgiving, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen in other series, other races, we've seen drivers in the lead or in a podium position have absolutely no luck and get a drive-through penalty very close to the end of the race. Unfortunately, they're all the hard work undone. So we hope that won't happen. We hope everyone keeps their lap times and stays within the the defined limits. But drivers make mistakes.
Yeah, of course. If drivers didn't make mistakes, you know, they'd be perfect. And how interesting would that be? Now we are with a 2:01.606, so 1/10 faster actually than last time around. Now here comes Jack Noller with the first qualifying time, 2:06.335, so keeping it under the 5-second barrier, 4.7 seconds right now. Treyhan comes in with a 2:07.702, so not quite able to touch Hannes yet.
A smaller gap than we saw in qualifying so far, but not by much. There's still a second between them. So maybe Hannes just figured out the flow of the track. Maybe he's just got that like edge on the other drivers.
Yeah, and I think this is really going to be the imperative thing though now. The first lap is of course the very important part, but just being able to... that is Berger's actually maximum attack. I mean, we saw it earlier with Hans Hannes in free practice, absolutely sending it around turn 3 and turn 4 and turn 5, turn 6. But yeah, Berger's, this is maybe a little bit too much slowdown from all the sides, instead of, you know, gaining time from that.
Definitely. It's not the fastest way to go around a corner, but it is the most impressive.
Absolutely.
It is
definitely looks interesting, but you know, sadly not quite so fast.
It's the one that will get the biggest reaction out of us, because we just enjoy watching cars sliding.
Now Hannes once again. Purple sector on both times.
Another 10th up so far. He does have some traffic, I think I saw. No, they're right out of the way, so he probably won't cause him an issue unless they're really slow down. But yeah, he should be able to complete this lap safely. Again, two more purple sectors I should add. So it'll be interesting to see as he comes around the final corner, sliding a bit just to, again. Out of the track limits?
I think that may have just gotten invalid.
That's what I was going to suggest. It doesn't seem like it yet. It is slower though.
Yeah.
He doesn't manage to improve, but I do think if that lap hasn't been invalidated, he is one of the lucky ones. Because he was very clearly off the white lines.
Yeah, of course, R-Factor 2 having their own system there as well.
Yeah.
But that was... You could just see how hard he was throwing the car in there. And comparatively here, Max Carrion, a lot more conservative, a lot more calm driving, which will definitely be good for the long run, which will definitely be good for the race and the tire lifetime. But, you know, obviously, like, the gap, 2.9 seconds, it speaks to itself that, you know, the pure pace is not quite the same there.
Definitely. And he's at that lap time going, I think it was almost 2 seconds faster than he did in his previous lap. So we can definitely see his pace and maybe his confidence in the car improving. But as you're saying, the pure confidence in the car, maybe still a bit lacking the pure talent. Maybe has to need some more practice. But a good effort nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Berger's coming in with 6th place now, 2.3 seconds off. Karsten Beyer coming in with a 2:08.7. Not quite the pace that he was able to put in earlier in free practice, but of course, putting that lap together in qualifying is also a completely different task. And, you know, obviously, he definitely will want to be closer to his teammates from GT Omega RPM Esports. To Dean Vella and Jack Noller, of course, but getting that lap together in a car like this, I'd say overall, compared to the Alpine, the Nissan looks like an absolute dump truck to drive, simply because of the 200 kilogram difference as well, and, you know, so much weight on the front as well.
I like that you describe cars that are difficult to drive as dump trucks. My go-to is boats. Amazing.
I'm not using boat anymore because, you know, the Bentley is always called the Boatley. Yet, we try to run it in the wet and, you know, it doesn't really swim that well. It gets swept away.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that is a misnomer then in that case. The Boatley. Love it. Absolutely amazing. we cut to Jack Nolla on an outlap. Just coming around the final 3 corners, he'll start his lap in a minute. Currently, once again in P1, once again has another 4/10 gap. Could he be another driver who's just figured out the rhythm, figured out the confidence of the car, where he can push, where he knows he needs to back off? Is he maybe a shoe-in for the pole position in his class?
I think Dean Vella also has very good chances to get pole position still. Dean never really backs down and, you know, always up for a challenge there. So if he can just get the entire lap together in these last, well, pretty much 3 efforts that they have now,
I agree.
I think he can definitely bring the challenge.
For sure. You know, we saw him all throughout the multinational GT3 championship. He was always consistently fast and consistently challenging up towards the front. So I think it'll be foolish to count him out. Maybe he just needs a bit more confidence. Maybe needs to push himself a little bit harder to make up that gap. But his lap times are, I mean, he's in 2nd place, so clearly his lap times are competitive enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, 4/10. We saw how quickly Nolla and Hanus, for example, could gain some more time out of everything there. We could see how Carapau, how Sharp, how Trehorn could just find a bit more of a gap still. And here we can see, you know, green in the 1st sector, 0.004 of a second off in sector 1. And that's just so much closer than before already. That's basically already on the road to being, well, 4/10 faster. If he can keep up the pace for the rest of the lap like this.
Definitely, you know, all improvements are good improvement. He's going to need a bit more if he wants to challenge, but it's a good indication of that he's on his lap. He's maybe, like you're saying, the track evolution, maybe a bit more grip, maybe he's more confident with the tires. It'll be interesting to see. I believe the 2nd sector split is around these next couple of corners, so we should be getting an update on how he's doing, how his lap's going in just a few seconds. I believe it's right under this thing, right? Am I correct? I'm working on, yes! Oh, purple! Wow!
Actually.
An excellent sector.
2/10 up, so I told you, Dean doesn't give up without a fight.
He does not. And yeah, again, we always talk about these statements. Purple sector is another one of those where it's just like him putting the gauntlet down, being like, I can do this. If he can manage to string those together in the other sectors, I think he'll have more of a challenge than he currently is now. As somewhere along the lines, Nolan has set an even faster time to now be 8/10 ahead of Dean Vella. So as he finishes his lap, just across the line now, 3/10 faster. Very, very good lap. 5/10 faster.
It would have been fast enough. It would have been fast enough for pole. But Nolla's just, you know, not giving up yet. Actually, on the same note, Hanus actually 201.2. But, wow, that is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. The gap now 1.4 seconds as we see the 4th place driver in that class, Christian Sharp, coming around the final corner. Currently on a good lap, maybe 1.1 seconds up as he comes across the line into P2. Well done. Still a massive gap to Hannes, but a very, very good effort. Puts himself ahead of Trehorn, crucially. And onto the front row for now.
Absolutely. And just, you know, it's just so difficult, you know, to always gauge the effort that these guys put into, because you're thinking, compared to the fastest one, you know, 1.4 seconds of pace, but look at the personal improvement. It's over a second that he gained on that lap just now. And, you know, to just be able to pull that together out of nowhere is pretty much just almost inhuman already. So, yeah, you know, it's also, of course, a big thing, you know. For example, we don't know if Hans, for example, is used to the car a little bit, because, you know, of course, you have a lot of events here. A lot of events here and there when, well, this Alpine is an official car, of course, as well, from the Enduracers modding team. And got approved by Alpine as well. So, you know, as soon as an official car like that is popping up, there's just events galore everywhere.
Fair enough.
And, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, the amount of practice, amount of experience the driver has with a car absolutely helps their pace. And also, I think it is just a case of Hannes being a A-class driver. You know, you have to, even if you know everything about the car, you still need to be able to control it and be able to manage it when it's unpredictable and when it slides.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Matt, as we're speaking of sliding and, you know, the different skill gaps here, we have this very quick pop-up there, which we had just now. If you want to join this community, once again, we can only implore you to do so. Join the Discord, follow on social media, like, share, subscribe, that old jazz, and stay up to date with World Pro Racing, and you could be on one of these grids next. And of course, that's always something fun, as Francisco Valle Gonzalez actually, he's testing how long the front right tire will take that punishment.
Yeah, you don't want to do that in the race too many times. Spectacular to watch, but I can't imagine his front tire is his best friend at the moment. And he's still going. Still giving us that lovely one tire fire. But yeah, as you were saying,
that's bad for the environment for sure.
No one tell Greta Thunberg.
I mean, luckily we're in the virtual world here, so no ozone layer and stuff affected by that. But yeah, anyway, Alex Trehorn coming around for another run, and Kirsten Abea actually able to improve now, making his way towards the end of Sector 2, coming out of Turn 8. Actually looking very tidy out of that.
Yeah, 3 tenths up at the moment. On a maybe a good lap. Slight sliding as he goes into the chicane. Still managed to make a clean through, managed to hold up some good speed as he comes across the timing beam now. We'll see what his sector time is. Another 4 tenths up. Yeah, he's on a very good lap. So let's see, he's currently in 5th place. I don't think his time's going to be good enough to get him towards the top 3, but he might challenge Valle Gonzalez. I'm afraid I do not remember the second Valle Gonzalez's first name. Are they? I assume they're related, because that's a massive coincidence if they're not.
Yes, they're brothers actually.
Brothers. Oh, that's awesome.
So we have Anton and Francisco here, and of course, that's always wonderful to see, 2 brothers racing together.
Yes.
As we now have Abea coming across the line and just barely putting himself in front of both brothers.
Well done.
Right behind his teammates.
That's an incredible lap, and also shows that maybe he had some more time on the table earlier. As we cut back to us. Hello.
Hello
What
there.
did you think of the qualifying session? What do you think of, obviously, Hannes and Nola getting 2 amazing pole positions with 2 pretty big gaps?
Oh, well, Hans Sanos actually blew my mind that he could improve that much more. I think pretty much if he had a little bit more time, probably a 2.00 would have fallen as well, 2.009 or 8 or something like that. So, really getting along well with the car. And, Jack Nolla, I've actually raced him myself quite a couple times, very consistent driver, and he knows how to extract pace from the car. Same goes for Dean Vella, of course, as well. So these 2 guys, I think we're going to have an interesting time watching in the race. And actually, I think they may also be able to start challenging some of the Alpines if they are, not slowing themselves down too much.
Definitely, I think we're definitely going to have a case of 2 different races going on, as is the situation with multi-class racing. But Jack Nolla and Dean Vella, as I almost mixed up their names, oops. But yeah, Jack Nolla and Dean Vella are probably going to be the entertainment, or where most of the entertainment's going to come. Maybe the midfield from the Alpine class, but up at the front, of the Alpine class, I do think we might be getting a relatively easy victory for Hannes. Sorry, my mistake. But obviously, we can't judge anything. Mistakes happen. Things change. We don't know what the weather's going to be like, how the tires are going to be, what chassis people are going to be on. But I think Hans Hannes is a safe bet for a decent result. I won't say a win. Obviously, racing, you can never predict anything. But I would be shocked if he is somehow off the pace. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to finish first you have to finish. But first of all, we have to quickly go for a quick ad break, and we'll be back right after that.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Welcome back to some GT4 action here at Istanbul Park. I was very, very tempted to say Albert Park there, but that would have been the wrong continent and wrong racetrack, of course. I'm, of course, Nicolas Hillebrand. Next to me is Simon Zammit. And, Simon, we've had an interesting qualifying session already for 15 minutes, and now the conclusion to that, a 1-hour race is just ahead of us.
Yes, you know, we were watching qualifying, we saw some large gaps, some smaller ones in the second class, so it would be interesting to see who comes out on top, if, you know, people like Hans Hannes can keep that speed we saw in qualifying all throughout the race, or if maybe some other drivers on different strategies with different fuel loads can challenge them.
Absolutely, it'll definitely be something to look out for. Of course, with the Alpine A110 GT4 and the Nissan 370Z GT4, we've got two cars from two completely different time periods of GT4 racing. Of course, class name is the same, but there's 8 years of time difference, so a lot of engineering. I mean, we know the difference already, you know, with our virtual racing here, with, you know, well, fittingly to bring up also the sponsors for this AMD HyperX, GT Omega Racing and Thrustmaster. With AMD, for example, with processors, we see how much the speed of processors has advanced in the last 2 years already. And in cars, it's not really all too different. With 8 years of advancements, so much difference in technology, in weight reduction, in more efficiency, in tire technology, and of course in downforce. And that pace difference is definitely visible around here, around Albert Park. There we are.
Yeah.
Istanbul Park, drives.
You manifested it and then you said it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Istanbul Park, yes, correct. But yeah, I agree with you, you know, technology obviously advances, the car's going to get faster. So I think what we saw from qualifying was maybe around a 5-second per lap deficit from the Alpine to the Nissan 370Z. Have I got those string of numbers correct? Yes, I have.
Yep.
Amazing. My turn to make the mistake. So yeah, about 5-second gap. So obviously over time, throughout the whole hour, we'll have the faster class lapping the second class, and that'll play a factor into it. Obviously throughout the whole hour, we're going to have strategy, fuel loads, time management. As we cut to the formation lap, the cars will do a full lap and then proceed from a rolling start. So, oh, let's get a lovely little graphic. So
there we are. Yeah, with a wonderful little grid graphic here. Hans Santos in the number 616 Mirage Racing Alpine takes the front. Right next to him, of course, you know, well, first of course, we have, you know, the 7 Alpines first, and then in 8th place there. So the 4th row on the grid shared by Jack Noller, the pole sitter of the Nissans. Then behind that, Dean Vella and Kirsten Abeya in 9th and 10th, and the 2 brothers, Anton and Francisco Valle Gonzalez, in the 4th and 5th Nissan right behind them. And actually, that is quite a speedy formation lap, I have to say.
Yeah.
With the Corvette, you know, definitely, you know, not taking any prisoners there on the run.
Maybe the Corvette has a coffee date or something he needs to get to. Just, yeah. not wasting his time, is he?
I'm sure, absolutely isn't.
I'm sure the drivers appreciate it, you know, have some speed to heat up their tires, make sure their brakes are all working fine, so we don't have a massive crash into turn 1.
Yeah, the drivers will definitely be up to temperature by now already. But, you know, the temperature, as you said, you know, the tires and also the brakes have to be on temperature perfectly. And you could actually see the Nissan's actually having a little bit of difficulty keeping up on the formation lap with the pace of the Alpines and the pace car. So, yeah, quite some speed that is being put out there.
That was a very amusing camera shot of just seeing these cars appearing over the hill and just like struggling to keep up on a formation lap. Amazing.
Of course, they also have to keep back a little bit, simply because, you know, driving in the formation lap, it can be a little bit dangerous to have all the classes quite close together.
Definitely,
I mean, best example that I can think of at the moment would be that race start at Baltimore in the American Le Mans series in, I think, 2011, 2013, where they blocked the entire track simply because at the front they had a little mix-up there, a little communication issue, and suddenly the entire track was blocked.
Fair. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the 370Z class was also asked specifically to wait about 50 to 100 meters back, just so that there isn't so that commotion. The two classes don't really affect each other too much in the starts. Yep. We're all aware they're racing 2 very different races, so we don't want to have too many unnecessary accidents, I suppose. As we get
and
underway,
there we go, green flag.
Hans had a very comfortable lead immediately. Christian Schoppen behind him, keeping second for now. Alex Strayhorn not able to challenge it into turn 1, but Johnson does challenge Carapau, getting past for now. They're still side by side in the background. Unfortunately, we maybe see the end of that in a second. Ah, here we go. Still side by side.
Yeah, there we are.
Still side by side, going up the hill. We're coming to, I believe this is turn 3, and it seems that Johnson is just going to get ahead.
Yeah, just barely, but, you know, with these long winding turns, it's very, very difficult to get decisively ahead. And Jack Noller doing his best, actually, to keep up with the Alpines there. You can see him right in the back there with Dean Vella not far behind and Gus Nevaeh. But absolutely crazy. And Strayhorn, Johnson, Berges, Carapau, and Carrion, they're all so close together still. And Hannes, of course, trying to fly away from the rest of the grid.
Hannes and Noller have both managed to pull themselves about a second gap in this opening lap, which is very impressive to do in such a short time. As you see some battling, Steve Johnson now battling with the car behind him in Berges. Is that how you pronounce his name? Amazing. Love that. So yeah, they're very close on track. I think even from qualifying, if I remember correctly, they had pretty similar pace. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against each other as the race goes on. Tires wear, fuel burns, you know, the usual racing shtick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's also one of the wonderful things with sim racing. You get so many different names from so many different parts of the globe. I think like last Sunday I was doing a 6-hour race and obviously streaming it as well, trying to pronounce everyone's name correctly. And then there was an 18-syllable name, and I just gave up on trying to pronounce it and basically just went, I'm not being paid to pronounce this. I will butcher the name either way.
I appreciate the honesty in that. As we see, Burgess and Johnson very close together, very battling. And also that Strayhorn making, well, not making a move, but making an attack on Sharp. Two very close drivers going around at the moment. So it will be interesting to see how... I'm sorry. It'll be interesting to see if Alex Strayhorn can make that move eventually, how they keep battling, and if they can close the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we had Anton Valle-Gonzalez also go past Kirsten Bay and the 370Z, so something must have happened there. But so much fighting still going on. There's Stephen Johnson actually going past on the inside through turn 5 and turn 6 past Berges. Berges now looking for the outside, maybe trying to go a bit for the later braking, or maybe just a wider entry to carry a bit more momentum towards the end of the corner. Looking for the right side now, but obviously he'll be on the outside for turn 8 now. Coming into the never-ending story of World Motorsports, and not quite able to make a move, but maybe gonna be able to carry a bit better momentum.
Could be. I think the move would be to try and carry as much momentum as he can, get a good exit, which he has done, and now dive up the inside exactly as he's done, right there. We're going to have to wait for the braking point to see if he gets it done. From the looks of it, Johnson just later on the brakes, he's going to be able to run wide. No, keeps on the track. A very good defensive move from Johnson there. But Burgess up the inside again, coming down the back straight. Not much of a braking zone into the next cone, so into the next turn, so they might stay side by side through it, as yes they do. And now into the final hairpin, into the last sector of the racetrack. Can Burgess make the move around the outside? It's difficult, it's a very long way around the outside, but if you can do it, if you can get the braking right, or as Johnson runs wide slightly, they make contact. Very close.
Banging here and there.
I think they make
Wonderful
contact
GT
again.
racing.
They make contact again. Carapau and Carrion are right there. They're going to try and capitalize as we see Carapau just diving up the inside a little bit, sticking his nose in. But again, Burgess has another really good run on the exit. He's going to go around the outside again into turn 1 on Stephen Johnson. Is he going to make it this time? He has to brake later than he has been in the past, but
he's still alongside though. For the next corner, he's on the inside.
He's on the inside. He's going to have a better run. Again, he's going to be on the outside again. If Stephen Johnson can keep it there, he will have the inside for turn 3, but it doesn't look like he can. Does he have good enough run to dive on the inside? He's going to try it. Just not close enough. Backed out of it just in time.
Very aggressive defense from Burgess there, yeah.
He goes for it on the next corner though. This is a great battle. But yeah, Burgess once again managing to drive clean around the outside and keep the position. And in the background, behind them, literally right there, we also have Carapau and Carrion keeping their positions. As Alex Strayhorn in 3rd place. Again, looking for a way past Christian Sharp. Does seem to have the pace at the moment. Maybe lighter fuel, maybe just has more confidence in the early phases of the race. But credit to Hans Hannes, who is 4 seconds ahead of this battle. He's absolutely driving away.
He's just driving away, but a bit thankless, of course. Because if you're by yourself, you're less likely to get picked up by the camera. Ah, there we are. It helps them with you there as well. But you can see, completely clean, no slides or anything like the others. But the others, of course, they have to drive on the limit. They have to try and get past somehow, get past their, other competitors. And Stephen Johnson and Chris Burgess, they're all still close together. Right behind that now, Joel Carapau and
Max Carrion.
There we are, sorry. Max Carrion side by side as well. And all just so close together. So we're having basically just GT4 pack racing over here.
Yeah. And if you look at in the background, even if you just glancing at the timing tower, we're seeing the the 370Z class. Some really big gaps forming. So the one clap is Christian Bayer to Valle Gomez. I believe his first name was Adrian. No, I think that's wrong.
Anton.
Anton, yes. Again, my humblest apologies. So yeah, that gap, currently 4 tenths, 5 tenths, so it'll be interesting to see if they can battle in the next few laps. As Jack Nollis... João Carapau having contact with, I think that was Max Carrion, was the other car involved.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see what happened, but contact obviously not. Contact sending both cars into a spin.
Something must have gone incredibly wrong there. Our stewards will certainly have a look at that.
For sure.
And very, very unfortunate, of course, with that collision there. And actually, I think that's Max Carrion also being overtaken by cars in the 370Z class now. Yeah, it is.
It is,
obviously with some damage now. It's gonna be a bit more difficult to drive that car as well. But of course, he'll try to make his way past the 370Zs as quickly as possible, simply because he wants to get back to the battle at the front of the field. Maybe even go for an earlier pit stop and repair the damage while he's there.
Yeah, obviously it depends how damaged he is, how much his handling and his car is affected by it. But he does have to get... He does still seem to have the faster car over the 370Zs, so it's just a question of finding the time to overtake them without losing too much time or affecting their race too much. Because Anton Vallagomez and Kirsten Beyer are very close and having a pretty good battle from the looks of it. But we cut back to the battle for second. Alex Trejo now a good run up the back straight. Can he try to dive up the inside of Christian Schaub? Christian Schaub puts his car right in the center of the track. Pretty good defending, but there is a gap on the inside. He's going to brake later. He's going to go up the inside. Can Christian Schaub
gets the car stopped pretty well, but so difficult. It's the over and under and over and under and over.
Yeah, he was
in these sections.
He was a bit too tight on the way into the penultimate corner, and Christian Schaub could just drive clean around the outside. We saw it in one of the battles earlier as well. You really, if you're going to try to dive up the inside of the hairpin, you have to make sure you get it stopped enough to manage your line into the next corner. As currently, I think that's Burgess trying to move on Treyhorn as well, so that gap's also closed. Their battling has let him join the top two. Well, not the top two, but like the second and third place.
Look at that, now going almost 3 wide.
Yeah.
And you love to see it. You
Burgess,
absolutely
once again,
love to see it.
He has the run. He's going to be up the inside of Treyhorn into this corner. But once again, Treyhorn could just like a bit too far around the outside, be perfectly honest. He's not going to be able to keep the position from that an angle. Oh, doesn't make contact, thankfully. But yeah, Burgess up into third place. Can he challenge Sharp? We saw Christian Sharp some good defending skills early on Alex Treyhorn, so it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up against Burgess now. Or Bergs, actually.
Speaking of contact, though, we are getting news from our stewards. Incident with the 7 and the 22, so I think that will have been Carapau and Carrion. One of them gets a drive-through, but I don't quite know much my shame. Oh, 7, there's number 7, so Carrion gets a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact. Right,
so that would have been him causing the incident that we saw earlier, both cars spinning and losing a lot of time to the races ahead of them. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it live on track. Maybe we'll manage to in the future get a replay, but we'll see about that. As we see again, Kristen Bayer and Anton Valle Gonzalez. One day I will get his name right. Very close on track as Valle Gomez goes off track. Can Kristen Bayer maybe get around the inside? Doesn't look like he has the pace at the moment. He's going to have to hold back just a little bit longer.
Absolutely, and just so close. You can see Castelnavea really trying to pull all the tricks there. Gets close now, but
he has a run. He's going to go at the inside of this corner, but he has to keep it there till the outside of the hairpin, which we've seen is very difficult to do. Will he be able to outbrake Valle Gonzalez? I can tell you in about 3 seconds, but no, he seems way too far back. Gonzalez managing to keep that position for now. As we got to Max Carrion going pretty slowly. Maybe that's the damage, maybe just the camera angle playing with the speed. But he does have that drive-through penalty. He's going to need to serve for the avoidable contact. Does he come in? Yes, he does.
And
so,
also Francisco Valle Gonzalez coming past him as well. I think he actually just hit the pit wall there as well.
He did, a little bit.
Really not going his way at all right now.
No, as we cut back to Kesnavea going up the inside of Anton Gonzalez. Gonzalez running wide. Kesnavea's going to have a run round the outside of turn 2 up to turn 3. Going to have the inside line in that corner. Maybe he can get around, but it's a long way around. Very long corner. Into the braking zone now for turn 3. Gonzalez just runs maybe a bit wide, but he manages to keep it there. Kesnavea gets the move. He's back into P3 where he started.
Very nice racing here. different lines, of course, and you could see that huge lockup of Kirsten Abaya into turn 1 early as well. So the question is, how long can he keep that kind of tire wear up as well? Because there we are again, Anton Gonzalez looking for a gap, and once again, a little bit of a lockup. He gets his nose alongside, gets on the shorter distance, he gets his car fully alongside now, but of course it's now on the outside for turn 8. And now the big question is, can he make it work around the outside? Both cars going side by side, and not quite.
Both cars off the track. That is, I think that's what we call using all the limits and then a bit more. But yeah, he's still got to run. He's still going to dive up the inside going into this next turn. Well, I assume it must be turn 9. But he's not going to have enough time. Ooh, Kesnaber are very aggressively closing that door. A very good defending move. Manages to keep the position for just a bit longer.
Yeah, so close this entire battle still. So really good to see that happening. Carrion also, meanwhile, found himself with a DNF. So sadly, we've lost one of the competitors in the Alpine class. However, we still have 6 more left, and they seem to have found all their rhythm now. So we're gonna keep the cameras right now on Abaya and Anton Gonzalez, as both of them outbreak themselves a little bit. And well, almost entering the pit lane there. They're really driving everything out of these front tires.
Yep, and Kesnaber going wide against the next. They have to be careful of track limits. They do that too many times, they might get a slap on the wrist. But it is, you can clearly tell they're both racing so hard trying to one-up the other one. It's very fun to watch. It kind of reminds me of the Massa Cubica battle from many years ago. I think it was 2008. I unfortunately do not remember the track, but it was raining, if that helps.
Oh, that could have been quite a few.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Suzuka, but it could have also very easily been Silverstone, because I am in fact a moron. As we cut to, we'll ignore my failing memory to go to Hans Hannes in the lead by 7.4 seconds. I believe "wow" is the word to describe that. What would your word be?
Also, quick news here as well. Kirsten Abaya was asked to give back the position to Anton Gonzalez because he made Anton go wide. So quite tricky there as well, of course. You know, you want to get past, you want to stay ahead, but then you have to give position back because of something like that. And yeah, of course, it's all for the sake of fairness. And very nice to see overall that the fairness is being given here.
Definitely, and you know, credit where credit is due. You know, if you get told, hey, this move was maybe not the most sportsmanlike, please give it back, and to do it, no questions asked, is very respectable for Kirsten Abaya.
Absolutely. So we're almost 15 minutes in. First quarter of the race is over. So we go to P1 in the 370Z class with Jack Noller and right behind him Dean Vella. Having a bit of a comfortable distance between the two, but you know, of course that can always change if one of them just slips up. You can see the banner down there again. You know, if you want to join these kinds of events, we've got Formula 3 and R-Factor 2 coming up soon. We've got the HyperX Open Series races coming up, and a lot of other things as well, of course. So for new drivers, for, well, old drivers, for expert drivers, everyone finds something here. Also, of course, with very attractive prizes from time to time, and of course, everything here is free.
Yes, it was always fun to have opportunity to win things without paying for the thing you're winning. Yeah, we cut back to the battle for P2. Christian Sharp, I don't know what's happened to him, but he's lost 2 places. Maybe a mistake somewhere, maybe spinning out. But yeah, Corentin Berg is now in P2, Alex Trehorn in 3rd, and Sharp dropping to 4th. 2 seconds behind Trehorn, still a good, Matt's 5 seconds ahead of Johnson.
Berg has got past Trehorn and Sharp, so something definitely must have happened there, as you said.
Well, we saw him get past, we saw Berg get past Trehorn earlier when he was when Trehorn was battling with Sharp. But so Sharp has just lost those 2 positions. I would assume from a mistake, because I don't think the gaps were ever close enough for them to be battling on track. But again, I could be mistaken. We were very much enthralled in the Kirsten Abaya and Anton Gonzalez, my apologies again, battle. One day I will get his name right, I swear.
All okay, don't worry about it. After all, we also normally would have Pedro Crudas Gomez, but sadly not here.
Oh, see, that would have made my life even more complicated. There's already 2 of the Vela Gonzalez's. But yeah, interesting races from those two. Alex Strayhorn, kind of driving his own race. He does seem to be losing sometimes to Christian Sharp. So I don't know if maybe he's on a heavier fuel load and just not having the pace right now. Maybe he'll come into his own later. But yeah, it's interesting seeing how specifically the Alpine class are all kind of in these no man land gaps right at the moment.
Really, really difficult, you know, to just find the pace again, so to say. Meanwhile, these two are having no trouble keeping a battle up. Gonzalez and Abella still close together, and actually Francisco Gonzalez actually getting a bit closer. This time Anton Gonzalez with a big lockup. But, you know,
Kessler
really
Bayer as
difficult.
well. They're both of them locking up, trying to chase each other, well, obviously Kessler Bayer trying to chase Anton Gonzalez, and Gonzalez trying to keep away from Kessler Bayer. Both looking up, both going wide into Sen 1. This battle is going to be fun to watch. It does appear that they may be on the same strategy, maybe have similar fuel loads, because pace is even. Like, they catch up to each other, they battle, maybe one jumps back, and they always catch up to each other again.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to see, you know, who's really coming up on top here. Because both of them, of course, you know, quite focused right now, trying to fight the car there. As you can see that little wiggle there out of the corner, just past the apex from Kirsten Bayer. And I think these two, you know, having battled so much, I think it may be that they may have just overstressed their tires a little bit. And speaking of overstressing tires, you could see the same from Francisco Gonzalez in the back there as well. But obviously for him, it's still working out well enough that he's able to keep pace with these two ahead of him.
Definitely, and you know, keeping an eye on the gap, they don't seem to be coming down slowly. So maybe their battling has, as you're saying, worn the tires out to the point where they just don't have the pace of the car behind them.
Absolutely.
Looking at the times, it does seem that both Johnson and Carrion obviously had the drive-through, but he's in the pits again, and I think, if my memory serves me, it's been like that for a while, so maybe an issue there. Unless, am I blind? Does that say DNF?
Yeah, it does say DNF.
Cool, I love being blind. But my point, the point I was going to make was about Steven Johnson being 100 seconds behind. So I don't know if he's taken his pit stop early or if that's maybe made a mistake somewhere, got some damage and had to pit for that. Unfortunate for him, he qualified, I believe, in 5th. Again, memory, bad. But unfortunate for him, he does seem to be out of any chance to get a top-class result.
Yeah, maybe he already delivered a pit stop though, so that could be why he's so far back.
It could be.
Of course, we have to think, you know, 50 seconds, 100 seconds, that probably would be with a bit of repair. Maybe, you know, tire stop and fuel stop. We don't know if it's simultaneous tire change to refueling, which could be the case, will also not be the case. So that would be explained with, you know, the time discrepancy there.
Definitely. It's one of those things where I feel our questions will be answered in maybe about 10 minutes time when the other cars... Oh, you'd assume that's around the time the other cars will make their pit stop, around the halfway mark. Yeah. We cut to Jack Noller. Again, he's driving a really interesting race. He has to drive fast enough to keep Dean Vella behind, to not let that gap close too much. But also, he can afford to not push himself around every single corner. He has a 2-second buffer. And really no one to chase in the front. He's leading his class, and he does quite simply, the 370Zs do not have the pace to keep up with the Alpines. So, interesting race. He has to very much measure the way he drives and also make sure he's not too lax.
Speaking of interesting race to drive, right now we have Corentin Berges in 2nd place. You know, we had an 8-second gap before, and in the middle just now we had it down to 6.8 seconds and a pop-up new best lap, which would probably be for the Alpine class then, in which case Corentin Bergers actually just went faster than Hans Hannes. So either Hannes maybe a bit too harsh on his tires early on, or Hannes is, just maybe losing a little bit focus, which is easy to be done when you're just driving alone by yourself without, any bigger thing to keep the adrenaline pumping.
Could be. It could also be like maybe Hannes is saving his tires. Maybe wanted to go a little bit later into the stint so he could be more aggressive later on. It's one of those questions, we'll see. If Hannes is the first to pit, then everything I'm saying now is completely rubbish. But if he's one of the last to pit, then maybe that's his strategy, He has that gap to play with. He can afford to maybe go a bit slower now so he can safely emerge from the pit still with the lead and push if he needs to.
Yeah, and that is, of course, the strategy that he has to know which is best for him right now. You can see the gap go down here again and again, and, I think the Delta, of course, a little bit confused with certain track positions, because there's just so many different lines to be taken through these corners. As we now switch back to Costa Bay, who's gotten past Anton Gonzalez, but also Francisco, due to them battling, still able to stay right behind them. So really, really interesting, as Hans Hannes actually just dips into the 2028s.
I was waiting for you to finish your sentence just to bring that up. So yeah, clearly Hans Hannes still has the pace and is maybe not best pleased about us doubting him. Many apologies to him. But yes.
He's got the broadcast on in the background and he's just thinking, well,
how
is he faster now? Okay.
How dare those two? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Keston once again ahead of Anton Gonzalez. Again, one of those battles that's just, I can't imagine this is going to be the last we see of them, as Anton Gonzalez has a run. He's going to go up the inside into the hairpin. Massive lock up there. He's going to get a break. Just about gets it stopped. Keston having to go wide to avoid contact. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Francisco Gonzalez wants to see this battling, wants to see these massive lockups and these mistakes, because that's going to help him catch up so quickly.
It's so difficult to get it properly alongside seemingly. So I think with low grip we're still not that far off here after all. Because, the lockup are definitely here around the track galore. And, the tires are definitely being made to suffer here quite a bit.
Definitely. And, we've seen it, again, in physical racing and also here. This track, specifically, we have some really long turns. Like, turn 2 is quite a long one. Turn 8, very long, very high stress one. Ooh, there's a slide there from Anton Gonzalez. So yeah, the tires are not going to be the best treated around here. So we need to make sure the drivers have to make sure that they're working them, keeping them fresh enough to have pace, but not overheating them.
Not quite able to get it anywhere where they really wanted it. As we see Hans Hannes here, who's, comfortably still driving in his lead position right now into turn 5 and turn 6. So I'd say almost 3/4 of a lap ahead of the 370Zs by now. So it'll be quite interesting if or when he's actually able to catch them, and maybe then, to lap them as well, since we have a quite ferocious battle going on there.
Definitely. It's interesting to see, if you look to the 370Z timing table, there is 27 gap between P2 and P3, which I assume a lot of that would have been caused by this ongoing battle, which have been at pretty much since the start of the race. So this is how much time you can lose if you're not running your own race in clean air, taking all the lines you want as fast as you can. So yeah, Hans Hannes, again, I do believe by the end of this race we might see traffic play a part of it. Hopefully the I don't want to say slower drivers, but the drivers in the back of the 370Z class, hopefully they will know to stay away and stay out of the way from the front runners.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, as it is in multi-class racing, blue flag rules are majorly stay predictable, stay on your racing line. But of course, when you are fighting, your race takes priority. It's mainly the faster classes car that has the responsibility of lapping people, in a responsible manner.
For sure. I'm going to change topic slightly. One interesting piece of information we're getting now: Stephen Johnson has already made his pit stop. Now, again, we're not sure if that was because of damage and he just pits to fix that and continue racing, but he is the only driver so far to have been through the pits. So maybe that's the strategy. Maybe he wanted to pit earlier so he could take a longer stint in the race, take a longer second stint. We'll see. We'll have to see how it pans out.
And of course, different strategies always a thing, even in these 1-hour races. And, well, Stephen Johnson definitely seeming to be the only one right now to be opting for an earlier pit stop, if for a pit stop at all, actually.
For sure. Obviously, we cut back to the 370Z as the two brothers, Anton and Francesco Gonzalez, co-battling. Francesco seemingly has a run. Is he going to be able to dive up the inside, outbrake his brother into the hairpin? Does look like it. Can he get it stopped? A bit too far back. Ooh, but Anton goes wide. He's going to give the place to his brother. Unless he can hold around the outside, which we haven't seen it work before. And in fact, he can't. So yeah, that's another place lost for Anton Gonzalez.
Yeah, tires don't seem to be all too fresh anymore with the longer lockups that he's had. So Francesco saying, brother, thank you, I'll see you at the finish line. And Anton probably shaking his fist and trying to get back closer again. But of course, you have to manage your tires now, or hope that you're going to end up getting a better pit stop than your opponent, of course.
Definitely. We cut back to Alex Strayhorn, who is currently losing time to Sharp. You can see, very visually see that gap has come down from when we last saw them. And also has an 8-second gap to Berg, so maybe he doesn't have the pace. Again, could it be he wore his tires too out battling earlier? Might want to consider a pit stop soon. I was going to say the same for Anton Gonzalez. If you've beaten up your tires a bit too much, it might be worth going for an earlier pit stop and then taking a bit more care of them second time round.
Yeah, it's really that question now, like, are your tires really destroyed enough to actually warrant a pit stop? Or, if you maybe want to just go to the end, if you can, on fuel, and, you think that way you would lose less time.
That could be another thing, that could be a reason for the lack of pace. If he has to conserve his tires, conserve his fuel, he might be lacking now, but with the idea that he's not going to lose, 20, 30 seconds in a pit stop. I don't know how long the pit stops take around here. Maybe you can inform me. But let's... sorry.
I think around that mark, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a random number of 30 seconds. The debate that he'll be having with himself is, does he pit, lose 30 seconds right off the bat, but have the new tires and fuel to maybe make it up if he's fast enough? Or do you risk staying out and hoping that the time you lose on your old tires isn't greater than a pit stop?
Yeah, it's a difficult call to make for sure.
Definitely, and it's one, the thing I like about esports is that we can have direct parallels to real-world racing. How many times have we seen this? Again, I'm thinking back to in Formula 1, Hungary and then Spain, where Lewis Hamilton made this call. He took a second pit stop, got new tires, and was able to win the race by simply being faster more consistently to make up the time. Could we see that happening around here? Again, as always, you have to wait and see till the pit stop phases, as Hans Hannes really throws his car around those final corners. He's having fun on those rear tires.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rear tires aren't having too much fun with him right now. Meanwhile, Abea and Valle Gonzalez are having all fun together, as they're all wrestling that Nissan around turn 5 and 6.
Absolutely. Francesco does seem to have more pace than the other two drivers around him, so I believe you might be correct that maybe they wore their tires out too much battling and locking up and having to go wide. That now Francesco just has the sheer car pace under him. As
We're actually having pit stops, yeah.
Both Bergs and Treyhorn are in the pits. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against Johnson specifically, as Carapau does the exact same thing. Pretty much, as we mentioned earlier, right at the halfway point. The pit stop for Bergs seemingly running longer than I anticipated, currently at the 40-second mark. So maybe that is how Johnson lost so much time, if they take, let's say, 50-60 seconds.
Yeah, that's the first number, of course, is the entire time you spent in the pit lane. Second time is the entire service time, of course, which is still going up. So 40 seconds, 43, 44, and we really have to look now when it actually stops, when the service time will be over for Berges. Actually, Carapau really fast. I think he's not changed tires.
Either not changed tires or not gotten fuel, because he only spent 25 seconds, where Burgess spent 53 and Treyhorn 50. So I think this does confirm earlier that Johnson must have taken a pit stop, because that's a minute each of them spent in the pit stop. But yeah,
I have to wonder though.
Carapau absolutely the biggest winner, but
Carapau though, like very naughty there on the pit exit line. So I don't know if maybe we're gonna see something there from the stewards.
Ooh. A penalty of something like that would be really costly, especially after he's made up essentially 2 positions. I think after Christian Sharp pits, he will be in a net P2. And depending on what, there was only, there was a good 7-8 seconds, so if Hannes also has a pretty long stop, Carapau could theoretically lead this race after the pit stop phase. Now, obviously the caveat to that is he going to have the tires and or fuel to keep that position? That is an interesting strategy call from him. I'm really interested to see if it's going to work out for him come the checkered flag.
Yeah, that's of course really difficult. Like now Christian Sharp's in, but Hanzano's still not into the pit lane yet. They're actually carrying quite a lot of fuel with him, not really having to pit for very long seemingly. And we also see though now Carapau, Berges and Treyhorn all relatively close together again. So if, for example, Berges and Carapau would start fighting, Treyhorn would be within striking range within just a couple seconds. So it's really difficult to anticipate how this will now end, as we have the pit stops now in the mix.
Definitely. I do wonder, if you're Hans Hannes, let's assume for a second you have the tires and fuel to make it to the end, and you know that around, on the whole, a pit stop lasts a minute. I would probably consider not making a pit stop, because he's currently 77 seconds ahead of Carapau with only 25 minutes to go. Is that a closable gap, do we think? Like, obviously, eventually Carapau will be starting making up seconds a lap, again, assuming Hannes doesn't pit, which I can't imagine he wouldn't pit. It seems like a really risky strategy, but interesting food for thought.
Yeah.
As we cut to Francisco Gonzalez, back to this battle at the very end of the field. It's been fun watching them. I think you can get the sense that they're also enjoying it, which is always fun to watch. They're loving having these, you know, trying to break themselves as late as they can, diving up the inside, forcing the other wide, then giving the place back. It's just very refreshing to see people generally look like they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And
as the two
racing, you can actually
almost get together.
So close.
That was almost a dinner table argument, wasn't it? Thankfully, Anton not colliding with his brother, and Francesco manages to keep his position in 4th.
So very close once again, and you know, that's millimeters that's in between them at the moment. So really difficult to get it fully there. Even with the early pit stops, Stephen Johnson seems to have, you know, a bit miscalculated himself there.
Definitely.
So it's not really gone quite his way. Meanwhile, everyone else in the Alpine class seems to be within 10 seconds, of course, except Hannes, who has still not been in the pit lane yet.
Yeah, you know, 77 seconds ahead. If we've seen pit stops last close to a minute, so he has to be careful not to wait too long, lose too much time to the cars that are currently running faster tires, faster fuel. Because if he does make the pit stop and he does take too much time, he might be under more of a threat than he was before the pit stop phase.
And I think it's definitely high time now for him to come into the pit lane, though, because you see Treyhon there, 2:02.1.
Yeah.
Now completely new fastest lap of the race in the Alpine class. Just having come out of the pit lane, and you can see also how close they're together now. That's 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds actually, 1.5 seconds from Carapau to Berges, 3 seconds from Berges to Treyhon, and another 3, or actually a little bit less, 2.7 from Treyhon to Sharp, and they're all close together. They're all running quite quickly now, and I think it's high time, if he doesn't have enough fuel, for Hannes to come in for the pits, hope that his tires will hold, and at least put in some more fuel.
Definitely, and as you were giving us the rundown of the timings, we saw Anton Valle-Gonzalez get past Francisco Valle-Gonzalez, but I do think there was a bit of contact. It was very much a clumsy overtake. He might give it back, but difficulty. We'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, for now, Anton into P4 of the 370Z class, and Francisco Valle-Gonzalez back down to P5. It's still battling though, I think. As you see them side by side again, round... that was not turn 8, that was the 2 turns before.
Turn 6.
Yes, that one. That is 8 minus 2. I was good at math at one point. I don't know where it's gone. But yeah, I can get this. These two are just enjoying racing each other, which is really fun. As they're gonna go round the outside of turn 8, he's not gonna be able to hold that under any circumstances. But I mean, he can get a cutback. He can maybe get a drive down into turn 9. If he can hold it, depending on the exit he gets, they're both running very wide off the track. But they do have to be careful, because behind them, that is Hans Hannes. So
he's going to have to be careful as well, though, because, you know, he obviously can't just... actually, he can just dive bomb and fly past them. But, you know, he has to be careful anyway, because there we are. Now we have a little bit more straight line speed again from the Nissan.
Absolutely.
The ace up the sleeve of that car.
But that is the Alpine ahead, and the Nissan will not... I doubt the Nissan will be challenging anymore. But, as we were watching that, Alex Treyhon sets yet another fast lap of the race. So, Hans Hannes, you have to think... I'm going to ask the question again. 20 minutes now gone. The gap between Hannes and Carapau has...
he's coming in.
He is coming into the pits. 80 seconds is the gap. Is he going to come out with the lead? As we join to P2, and there's a battle for P2. That is Burgess overtaking Carapau on the inside, and...
That's also with Dean Vella.
That is... Dean Vella.
On both sides.
I believe Dean Vella got a minor heart attack from that, but they're still side by side, despite the Nissan being the wedge, and Burgess does get past Carapau. He's into P2. The gap now, 63 seconds, obviously going to be dropping every single second as Hannes is not moving. It's going to be really interesting to see how they stack out. There's another Nissan in the way, this one of Jack Noller, still in the lead of that class. Is he going to get out of the way? He does for Burgess. Is Carapau going to be
darting out of the way?
But look how much time he's lost to Dean Vella. There is a lot closer on track than they are now. Just 5 tenths between the two. And the gap from Burgess, 37 seconds, now 35, now 34. It's Hannes is still in the pits. He's, as you can
also
see,
still stationary.
I was about to say, as you can see from the second number there, he is just now left his pit box, running into the minute timers, as we saw. This is everything's kicking off in the 20th minute of this this race. A massive slide from Burgess, getting heat in those tires, but he does keep P2, and Hannes is back onto the track. An 18-second gap. It might drop a little bit as he heats up his tires, but still, that is a massive, massive gap to P2.
Absolutely. So really incredible drive from Hans Hannes, actually gaining, I think, around 10 seconds through that little part there. So really, really impressive from him. Probably with a heavier car, so maybe with a little bit less refueling time as well, and just perfectly hitting his marks. But also quite interesting for P2 there. We saw Burgess go past Carapau. Carapau in the first place made it up that far because he didn't take new tires. So I think now, for the remainder of the race, Carapau has to switch to the defensive and now has to defend for his life for that podium spot, because everyone behind him is on new tires, except for him.
Definitely. You know, in the pit stop phases, he got past Burgess, Treyhon, and Sharp. So if he can keep even one of those behind him, he would have made an improvement by not taking new tires.
So very, very difficult. And now I think that is Sharp trying to get alongside Dean Vella to get past the Nissan before turn 8, but that's not quite possible. Now actually looking down the inside, thinks better of it though, and that's actually the Nissan lead battle going on as well.
That is
almost going 3 wide now, actually.
He's gonna dive down the inside of Jack Noller here. Better on the brakes, can't get past. We saw earlier though, the Nissan does have better traction and better drive. So that is, I assume, one very frustrated Christian Sharp there. As we see, yeah, right there, the Nissan does get a bit closer, but I doubt he'll try and move. The Alpine is better on the brakes, has more downforce. I believe...
look at Jack Noller, though.
Jack Noller, I believe, right now would be probably more interested in looking behind him and keeping Dean Vella at bay rather than looking ahead and trying to waste time battling a car that's significantly superior to him in pace.
Well, sometimes you can't help yourself, though,
Oh yeah, sometimes you just throw it up the inside because, why not? But, given the situation, we know Jack Noller's a very experienced driver, he's very talented at what he does. It does seem like he ate on the side of caution and is, once again, looking in his mirrors at a 4/10 gap right now. Jack Noller definitely losing time in the pit stops. Well, actually, he hasn't pit yet. None of the 370Zs has pit. But losing time as faster cars have been lapping them.
I think they do have a bigger fuel tank as well, of course, with the naturally aspirated engine. So I think Dean Vella really now trying to get closer and closer to Jack Noller, maybe conserving his tires a little bit better. And of course, teammates, be that as it may, they are both very, very keen on getting that race win, I think. And you could see how much Dean Vella is gaining in certain sections of the track. Now, of course, in the slipstream again and again. So actually, a bit less air resistance on the straights. It's a wonderful thing to have. But of course, you want the little downforce that you actually have through the corners.
Definitely. And as we're watching these battle, Alex Strayhorn has managed to get past Carapau for P3. So Carapau should actually maybe coming undone a little bit. He has another 2 seconds to Christian Sharp there looking at the timing beam. But the real battle on track now, Jack Noller and Dean Vella, they're so close on track, just 1/10 in between them. Is Dean Vella going to try outbrake him into the inside? No, yellow flag in sector 1 was very quickly resolved, maybe a car running wide. But is Dean Vella going to manage to get a run out of the chicane? Can he try a move into the hairpin, do we think?
New turn 8 took, I think there was a solid 3/10 out of Noller just now, just having a better line. So, really, I think Dean Vella, 15 minutes left. He's going to use those 15 minutes as much as he can. As Francisco Valle Gonzalez, I think his tires finally gave out, and he's now in the pit lane for that. As the lone Nissan who has to pit at the moment.
That's going to cost. Oh, we come back. Alex Strayhorn has got past Burgers for P2.
Oh, yeah. Too much happening. Too much happening.
This is the problem when you have so many close battles, especially so many battles at the front of the grid. I didn't even notice the gap coming down. Like, that's how focused I was on the Jack Noller Dean Vella battle. But Alex Strayhorn has gotten past Burgers. Can he keep ahead? You can see Burgers is not giving up without a fight. He is going to try and cut back. I think Alex Strayhorn getting a bit unsettled over the curb gives Burgers a little bit of an advantage. As we come around 10-6 into 10-7. It's not a very popular rotating spot, but it can be done if you get the braking right, if you get the perfect run. Burgers just a bit too far back. He's going to have to follow all the way around turn 8 and maybe try and set him a move into the chicane or into the final hairpin are his best 2 options at the moment.
Absolutely, but we also have to remember those 2 guys, they both took new tires, much like Christian Sharp, who's also now creeping out on Carapau right behind them.
Yes, that gap is also closing.
Yeah, and we've got some battles ahead of us here. And, well, you said, with so many close battles on track and also multi-class, I'd like Formula commentators to deal with this.
Get wrecked, David Croft. No, I'm kidding. I'm so rude, I do apologize. But, as we see, Burgers running up into the final corner, well, not the final corner, the chicane at the end of the back straight. Too far back, but Christian Sharp is making a move up the inside of Carapaz, and he does look he's going to get it done. Carapaz's tyre is just not good enough to keep him behind him.
Yeah, of course, braking performance is also diminished when your tires are completely worn. So difficult, of course.
Burgers gets a much better run than Alex Trehorn of the final corner. He's going to go side by side into turn 1. Can he outbrake him? He's got the inside line, but he just has to back out of it, not having the ultimate top end speed. Alex Trehorn keeping that position for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you just have to constantly look again. I think I also saw on the overall delta to the leader that Stephen Johnson is right behind Kirsten Abeya. So very, very interesting to see that as well, just going down out of nowhere there. And Stephen Johnson, there we are, gone past Abeya now. But Abeya also with a lot more straight line speed, taking a lot of momentum and now into the braking zone. Of course has to go on the brakes earlier because the car's after all 220 kilos heavier. But yeah, I think a little bit of sweat running down Stephen Johnson's back there.
Definitely. But see, this is the battle I was expecting to see as I've been monitoring this gap. It's been hovering around 6 cents for a little bit, but now it's cut down to 3 or 4. So maybe Dean Vella taking a couple of laps to cool down his tires and cool down his brakes before trying again. But Jack Nolan does seem to be... I don't say he seems like he's struggling. It just seems like Dean Vella has those 2-3 tenths extra pace that is really putting Jack Nolan under pressure.
Yeah, you can see it here again, you know, how much closer Vella is getting just by keeping it a little bit tighter. And once again here, actually keeps it fully on track as well. Momentum stays about the same. It's just so difficult. And Nola a little bit late on the brakes. But can Vella maybe get the gap down again by going a bit early on the throttle? And a little bit it does go down, but so difficult here.
Definitely. I think Nola runs slightly wider into the chicane than Vella, so Vella might get a better run, but I can't imagine he'll try and move from this far back. He won't have the braking performance. So he'll have to, you know, follow through these 1, 2, 3 really tight corners, then down the soft finish straight again. Maybe he can try and get a good run here from the hairpin, very important, and also through this chicane. If he gets it in the front, he can maybe try into turn 1, but with a 6 tenth gap as it, well, maybe between 4 and 6 tenths as it stands now, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Very close, of course, as well. So Dean Vella's trying to get closer, but seemingly into corners, Nola still has a little bit more confidence on the brakes. Maybe Dean Vella also just trying to save his tires a little bit more for the last around 5 minutes maybe, or last couple laps to just make that decisive strike as Alex Trehorn is being shown here, being chased by Carrington Burgess.
And as we were watching...
I almost said Christian there.
No, that is Christian Shop. But as we were, speaking of him, as we were watching the Nola Vella battle, Christian Shop has managed to get past Carapaz. So his strategy, a bold choice, didn't work out for him. I think at best he's going to finish where he was before the pit stops. So, you know, I think the most he can hope for is, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But Stephen Johnson, unfortunately, another 50 seconds back, 10 minutes remaining. Unless Carapaz's tires really do fall off the cliff and he gets a puncture or something, maybe a bit too difficult to challenge now.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. Of course, it is very difficult, of course, to challenge that in that short time frame now. But as we're speaking of challenge, Dean Vella getting very, very close to the rear end of Jack Nola. Now with overlap as well.
Gets a very good run out off turn 8. Nola defending well into the chicane, but he's going to have a worse line, going to have a slower run. Dean Vella is going to want to try and get, hopefully up the inside, maybe he can do around the outside of the hairpin coming up. He's got a better run. He's very, very close behind. A lot closer than he was last time round. He is in range to try and outbrake Nola for the lead of this class. As we come into the braking zone now, is he going to look? He's showing the nose, he's showing the intent, but doesn't brake late enough. But is Nola going to run a little wide? There is a gap on the inside as we just cut back. Nola does keep the position for now. Switch back once again. Dean Vella's going to want to get a good run out the final corner, try and challenge, but Nola gets a wider line, can carry more speed.
A bit too aggressive on the throttle, a bit too much wheel spin. Just can't quite put all the 420 horsepower of the Nissan down properly. So Vella, as much as he's seemingly, you know, got the upper hand, through corners. On the straights, he just can't quite seal the deal yet. And I think, you know, Vella's just a bit more confident through turn 8. That's why he's always been getting closer and closer and closer. Meanwhile, Nolla, of course, still not enough confidence to just constantly challenge Vella, and well, also Vella barely gaining anything on straight line speed, seemingly, even with slipstream. So really, really difficult for him to get past there.
Definitely. We just saw Nolla in the first sector can pull a pretty decent gap, but then as soon as the corners get a bit tighter and you need to carry that like almost like middle speed corners, that's where Dean Vella can really make up time. And he's closer this time around than he was last time going into turn 8. So this could be the best opportunity. He had a pretty good opportunity last lap, but this could be, if he gets his line right, if he hits every apex perfectly. And we see, look how much more speed he can carry than Nolla. I think he's understood the corner a bit better. He knows what line to take. He does just carry so much more speed. Both of them running, yeah, touch wide, no harm there. But a bit further back, I think maybe he went into turn 8 a bit too close to Nolla and just couldn't capitalize on it the way he could in previous laps.
Yeah, got washed out a little bit, and you know, earlier he was a little bit offset to the side on the inside. You know, maybe could gain a bit more downforce through that more efficiently, and you know, directly behind, obviously, right in the dirty air, as we see them go up the hill in the background there, as we watch Ansanos here. Wonderful here. I always love this about racetracks, when you have such extreme elevation changes. You also don't see that in Dubai, for example, but there in person, the track just goes up and down so beautifully. Absolutely fantastic to see.
Yeah, I've never been to a race in person myself. I'd love to go one day when COVID sorts itself out. But we have cut to Hans Hannes leading the race by 23 seconds. Very comfortable margin. Do we think he's having a bit of a Sunday drive at the moment, knowing that gap, knowing there's only 6 minutes left? He doesn't want to push himself too fast, you know, start cutting corners or extending track limits and get a penalty. He's pretty comfortable, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say he's pretty comfortable now. Just gonna finish this race now. I think it's, you know, gonna be like the last 3 laps for him. And for everyone else, of course, right behind him as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I assume for him, he's going to want to make sure that there are as few laps as possible. Because obviously, the less laps he has to race, the quicker his win comes.
Yeah, obviously, but, you know, I have seen it sometimes as well. I think it was in the SRO 6 hours of Nürburgring a couple of weeks ago. The lead car, the lead Bentley that actually won the race, actually on purpose drove extra fast in the last closing laps and gave an extra lap into that race. Crossed the line, I think 3 or 4 seconds before the start-finish flag was, you know, waved, and forced another lap because they knew the stint time limit of 65 minutes was just so close for a couple of their competitors, and that they would obviously gain by them getting a penalty there.
Oh wow!
So just out of spite, so to say, just to make sure, well, guys, you did well in rounds before this, we're gonna do well now.
Yeah, I think that is a case of, if we assume there's a real life podium, that would have been one very smug winner.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, we cut back to the battle for the lead of the GT4 370Z class. The gap has stretched out a little bit. Do we think maybe Dean Vella has maybe used his tyres too much, or is he conserving them for a last gasp attempt, now going into maybe 1 or 2 laps left?
I think maybe one last attempt if he can get it together, but the gap, of course, 7/10, it's not easy to gain that back. Meanwhile, also for P3 in the Alpine class, we've got around the same gap between Burgess, and who's actually here a little bit too far off the track there. So closing distance there for Sharp, obviously on a tighter line. So difficult to close that gap in the last couple minutes. But of course, when you see that car in front of you, it's like someone lit a fire under your behind, and of course you want to drive a little bit faster then, just to make sure that you can catch that guy.
Definitely. Although it does seem that Burgess is struggling a lot as he goes wide again. he does seem to be struggling. Maybe he's used up his tires too much, because obviously before, in the first stint, he was running very comfortably in second. And now here, he's already lost that place to Alex Strayhorn. And it does look as Christian Schaub's looking left and right to get a pass. He's going to have a run into the hairpin. Is he going to make it? He does.
Overspeed. Look at that overspeed.
That is just a good run. Alex Berg is trying to hold it around the outside. They make contact. But Alex Berg does hold it. They make contact again. But yeah, Schaub holding it around the outside, then into the inside for the final corner, but loses the back end.
And over again.
Burge is going to have a run.
Incredible.
Again, I think maybe the contact losing him just that crucial amount of momentum that means he's going to challenge. But there's still another braking zone to go. Is he going to be able to dive off the inside? No. Schaub defending really well, putting his car right in the middle of the track. But that means he's going to be slow off the exit. Burgess gets a better exit. Can he challenge into turn 3? Doesn't really look like it. Again, depends on the braking performance of the car. But if, like I've suggested, he's wasted his tires, he's not going to have that.
And it's of course also 2 laps still to go. They're fighting like it's the last corner.
Yeah.
So, you know, at least Alex Strayhorn, he'll be quite happy, as once again down the inside, last moment for Berg is just trying to make sure there, but now on his inside again is Christian Schaub, getting a little bit of a better run for turn 6. Contact on the straights, and a bit too late on the brakes for Schaub.
Alex Schaub goes very wide. He's gifted that position back. He's going to have to try and fight it back into the exit of turn 8. He's going to need to carry the speed through the corner, make sure he hits every apex perfectly and doesn't run too wide. It does look like he just has more tire life than Burgess, because look how much he's closing as we go through the 4th and final apex. Burgess run wide. Schaub, just like he did last time, is going to have another move. He's going to go to the outside again. Burgess defending. Is he going to be able to keep it on the track this time? Or is he going to run wide? He runs even more wide than he did last time, which means Schaub is going to get that good exit for the 2nd time in a row. We saw what happened last time. He managed to get the overtake done. Can he do the same this time round? Maybe, is my experienced answer.
Yeah, very, very difficult, of course, there. And they are trying their best. They are trying their best both. Now, of course...
Once again...
and once again, actually pulls over to the inside, like, as he is coming ahead. And, of course, Burgess, again with the contact there, now actually ending the 2nd to last lap. And both of them very, very wide entry, trying to get the maximum momentum out of that corner. I think that is Francisco Gonzalez just trying to get out of the way. Does not want any piece of that action for the last 5.338 kilometers, or for our friends across the big pond that's called the Atlantic, 3.32 miles of Istanbul Park. And again, side by side everywhere they're trying to break each other, and it's just going down with a lot of action right now.
This is the last lap, and you know, there's this battle. There's the battle for Nola and Vela still going on. These races aren't over, even though there's only 29 seconds left, and I'm pretty sure Hannes will be crossing the line soon after that. As Christian Schaub goes wide again, gives Burgess another opportunity, but has to go around the outside, can't do it. Christian Schaub wide another time. I think Christian Schaub now has his turn to have wasted his tires, maybe overheated them a bit much. As we unfortunately abandon that battle to go to Hannes coming around turn 9. Yes, turn 9. 5 seconds left. He has literally nothing more to do. All he has to do is just drive as slow as he can around the last 3 or 4 turns, and he's going to win this race.
Well, you know, completely faultless drive. Absolutely perfect from him.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, we can't say anything else, really.
No,
as we watch Christian Schaub and Berg is coming out of turn 8. And you can see both of them just not willing to give up just yet. Both of them very, very hot into turn 9. Definitely. As our eyes fixate on Hans Hannes with a fantastic drive, and with the class and overall win in his Alpine A110 GT4 for this 1-hour race at Istanbul Park.
That is what we call dominance. No questions about it. It was incredible from start to finish. As Alex Strayhorn has...
Alex Strayhorn is slow.
Has he run out of fuel? Because Christian Schaub and Burgess have got past him. Alex Strayhorn is having some massive issues. Christian Schaub inherits 2nd place, and his battle with Burgess is going to give him the 2nd podium spot. Unless Burgess has anything to say about it in this final corner. It doesn't look like it. Christian Schaub rounds the final corner. Burgess using all the track limits and then some to try and get a good run. But Schaub finishes 2nd, just ahead of Burgess. Alex Strayhorn 4th after running 2nd for so long in this 2nd stint. Carapau, from the looks of it, is going to finish in 5th. as we cut now to Jack Dollar and Dean Vella. There is one more chance for Dean Vella to get a pass. They're right close by. He's going to have to dive up the inside. There's no chance. He's got no choice. There isn't another opportunity after this. But he just can't do it. He can't get the braking right.
Maybe tries to do an over and under into the last two corners, but I think the gap is too big. Maybe in trying to look there.
Not a defensive around the final corner. Dean Vella, does he get a better exit?
Can't quite get it
slightly, but not good enough. Nola wins the 370Z class. Dean Vella in second place. A very, very close battle for them for the entire race. As now we cut to a more lonesome Kester having a spin on the final lap. He's got around a 30-second buffer to Anton Valla Gonzalez, so I don't think he'll lose a place, but an unfortunate time for the camera to cut to him.
I think that's the tires absolutely gone there. Those tires have taken a lot of punishment, so they can now be laid to rest with their brethren after this race.
Yeah, I believe a bouquet of flowers and a nice grave is what those tires deserve. Because he's been on them the entire hour, racing the entire time, locking up, going wide. So yeah. That's a very, would we say an excited or a frustrated Burgess riding all over the track?
I mean, they're still racing each other on the way to the pit lane on the in-lap. Normally you would say, oh, naughty, naughty, because of course there would be marshals on track. But these two, they obviously want to race each other to the finish now. And the finish, of course, being, well, in this case, Parc Fermé.
Yes.
And
thankfully, the joys of esports meaning the drivers can have their little fun on the cooldown lap without risking anyone's safety or anyone's money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well then, that was such a fun race. And if you're watching at home, don't go anywhere, because once we sign off here, we're going to have the top 3 from each class around for an interview, which will be very exciting. I'd love to hear from them, you know, what they thought of the race, what they thought of their battles. Specifically, I want to hear from Hans Hannes' dominance and Jack Noller and Dean Vella about everything they've just gone through.
Absolutely. So really, really good drive from all of them. And, well, I honestly just, I'm just baffled, you know, like, I didn't think we'd have such a close finish in both classes. And, just... in the end, there was such a heartbreak for Alex Treyon as well. You know, on the last lap, I don't know what happened there, but clearly some sort of issue in the last 4 corners of the race,
definitely,
and costing him second place.
And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to really hear from him. You know, we're interviewing the top 3 from each class.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll hear about it through the grapevine from someone, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now we have Kirsten Bayer with us from the 370Z class, of course. We're quite familiar with him already.
Yes.
Kirsten, how are you doing?
Hi, pretty good.
Overall, very busy race for you today. You battled with the two Valle Gonzalez's quite a lot. How are you feeling today in the race?
It was very difficult for me because I had some technical issues which I couldn't hear anything during the whole race.
Oh wow.
So no sound whatsoever, no engine sound, no anything?
No, nothing. It was pretty difficult because I couldn't hear the revs or anything.
Oh, that is definitely a challenge then, because yeah, you know, you're shifting after engine noise normally, and well, you just need the, I'd say you need the audio immersion to simply just gauge maximum potential out of your car. And Abaya, obviously, with the silent movie version of it for this evening.
What was it like?
Yes, very much so, yes.
You were obviously caught up in many, many battles with, as Nico said, the two Valle Gonzalez's. How do you manage your tires and your fuel when you're also trying to keep ahead of another driver and make sure they're not outpacing you?
Kirsten?
Yes, hello, sorry again. Yes, overall I think I would be very happy, and I would like to thank everyone, even my team, for trying to help me, but couldn't work. Yes, pretty satisfied.
Amazing. Thank you very much for coming on and for talking to us. And congratulations on a very hard fought for P3 in your class.
Right, then I think next up should be Dean Vella coming in
Yes, he'll come
relatively soon for P2, and of course
Yes, we'll have him in a few moments.
Jack Noller as well. Yeah, just fetching the drivers after they're done with the race. It's always, a bit of a challenge. But there we have him, Dean Vella, P2 in the 370Z class. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, yeah, not bad, definitely. It was a very fun race. Did expect to eventually overtake Jack at the end, but I just didn't have the straight line speed for some reason. So, yeah, but still very fun.
We were kind of pondering that in the commentary ourselves. We're just like, obviously watching the battle, you guys fought for so long in that second stint. Nola being a bit slowed down by the lapping cars and you just having that opportunity, and you never dropped him. So congrats to you for being able to, even when you drop like a few tens, always manage to keep it up. You seem to have more pace in the corners, specifically like the fast corners like 10-8.
Dean?
Yes?
Overall, you seem to have a lot more cornering speed compared to Jack, specifically turn 8. Overall, do you think that was, just overall like maybe tire conservation a little bit, or was it also just better line maybe?
I think it was more on the line of tire conservation, really. At the end, I think I was a bit smoother on the tires. But still, even though there were a couple of corners where I was gaining a lot, like especially in the last 5 to 10 laps, I still just couldn't find a proper way to overtake him. So big ups to him.
Yeah, so really, really good running from you there, and really close finish in the end as well. So it's really, really interesting there. Also, we just realized that the drivers can't actually hear Simon. So the drivers were not being rude or anything. The drivers here are very well behaved, of course.
Yes.
They just couldn't hear Simon because
of...
we have it over the mixer and stuff.
Yeah, the joy of doing this virtually means that I thought they could hear me, so I was asking these questions. And again, for the drivers, they must have been hearing radio silence and wondering what was happening, so unfortunate for them too. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Nico, you'll have to take the brunt of the questions from now on. I will sit here and look pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so Dean, overall, would you say maybe with a couple more laps you could have gotten Jack, or?
I mean, I think so. Really, I think there was a couple chances where I could kind of send it a bit, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I did have some sort of damage on the front. That I did notice quite a big discrepancy in top speed, especially when following Jack. So I think even if I eventually did overtake him, it would still be quite difficult to hold the position.
Yeah, of course. So, Dean Vella, thank you very much. P2 today, fantastic race from you. Now we're moving over to Jack Noller, winner of the 370Z class. Jack, how are you doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. Win's an amazing result, especially as I wasn't racing 3 hours ago. So that was good. Last minute decision. So enjoyable race with Dean as well. Knew I wouldn't have the ability to keep the tyres alive the same as him, being as I'm not that well versed in RF2, but made it work, and it was a good fun race.
Also saw, at the start of the race, it also looked a little bit like you were starting to attack the further back runners off the Alpine field. So quite fun dynamics there. Overall, how do you think the Nissan compared to the Alpine overall?
I obviously don't know how the Alpine drives, being as I drove here in RF2 for the first time 3 hours ago. So I'm just jumped in whatever car it was. And thanks, Dean, for the setup, because that would have been a bit more of a mare if I didn't have that. But I think the 370 is a tiny bit more top speed. But by the looks of it, when we're around them, especially around the pit stop phase, because the 370s didn't stop, they definitely seem to have a lot better brakes and a lot better cornering. So that's however many 10 years, 8 years of car development and classes changing. But it's still enjoyable car to drive, to slide it around as you do in R Factor. But yeah.
Of course, also very fun dynamic there with the Alpine, of course, weighing 220 kilos less, but you guys in the Nissan having 60 horsepower more. So really a fun dynamic that you had there. Overall, final takes on the race. Did you enjoy it a lot? And will we be seeing you again in R Factor 2?
I did enjoy it a lot, especially when we worked out the Alpines were pitting and that whole chaos that came with that. But yeah, I'll probably be back in R Factor 2, maybe a bit more than half an hour's of practice this time. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes in the future, what events go on, and maybe start a bit more in here, just get used to the physics again. But yeah, very much enjoyable, and thanks to the team of GT Omega and the sponsors to do with that, with Gaming Malta, HyperX, and yourselves at World Pro Racing.
Thank you very much, Jack. Congratulations again on the win.
Thank you very much.
Yes, a massive congratulations from me too, even though he cannot hear me. Sad times.
Right. Next up, we have Valentin Vegas.
Hi.
P3 in the Alpine class. Hello there.
Oh, what a race. What the end of a race.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that fantastic battle that you had in the end for P2, I think with Christian Sharp.
Yeah.
And take us through those last couple of laps.
I had quite a lot of damage from a punt I got in the middle of the race with Nissan. It was quite confused, and I got a big touch on the rear, and I lost a lot of top speed there. I thought the car was fine, so I chose not to repair. But it looks like it was a mistake because I was struggling so much with top speed in the second half of the race. So I was just trying to keep up in the corners and do the best exit I could, and it was not enough. It was not enough.
Still a very, very entertaining show that you put on. And of course, one hell of a race, absolutely. So, really, really well done there. And besides that crash overall, we didn't have too many multi-class aspects, but overall, how was your experience in the Alpine around the Nissans? How were the differences in the cars?
I just had 2 times to pass the Nissans, and they were fast, really fast in top speed. In straight line, but in corners they were very slow. So I just the one time I had to pass, I just dived in the inside and made the pass, and really it was quite clean, I think. So it was not so difficult. But yeah, it had something because we were in a battle with another Alpine, and it was multi-class racing, so really interesting.
Of course. Also, Carrington, if you don't mind me asking, is this the first time that you're racing with us? Because I think it may be.
Yeah, it's the first time. I'm more ACC guy, so I'm just racing in a factor once in a while. I got tired of a bit of ACC in the last time, so I chose to participate in some Air Factor 2 events, and I'm having a lot of fun right now.
Okay, so overall, besides this race here, and with ACC, we also have ACC events here if you want to race here as well later on again. But besides that, so far, what has your experience level been?
You mean with Air Factor 2 or with...
No, just in general with sim racing.
I've done some esports in ACC, being some... Yeah, I was second in the Alpine esport event, so I can compare the cars in the 2 games, and they are quite different. I have a lot of experience in solo racing, a bit less in endurance. I've done some 24 hours of Le Mans in Air Factor 2, which was really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, last time I didn't race much, to be honest.
But still, very, very nice to hear.
But yeah, I'm usually fast, not as fast in Air Factor 2 as I can be in ACC, but I didn't practice at all for this night, so I just came on the server and discovered the track and the car at the same time. So my lap times were improving laps per lap.
It was definitely noticeable throughout the race. But yeah, once again, congratulations, Corentin, and thank you very much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for organizing. It was really, really fun race.
Always a pleasure, I'm sure, from the entire World Pro Racing crew. Next up, we have P2 in the Alpine class, Christian Sharp.
Hello there, good evening.
Christian, very, very fun battle with you very, very early on in the race. And of course, in the closing stages, a very, very competitive fight with you against Valentin. And of course, big shock factor in the end with Alex Trahorn in the last couple of corners. Just take us through it from your perspective.
Do you know what? First of all, my heart goes out to Alex. He raced so well, and I think he really sort of threw the short straw. So unlucky, mate. Hopefully you do well next time. From my perspective, obviously, I started good in second, didn't I? But then I felt I started to drop back. Ended up in fifth or sixth. I can't quite remember now. But at that point, my brain was saying, don't give up. Obviously, keep on the pace, just trying to stay consistent. The long race, you never know what might happen. Obviously, then I tried to do a slightly different strategy, going a little bit longer strategy first, and then do a shorter, faster stint towards the end of the race. It paid off because then I started to catch up again, hopefully. And then yeah, that last bit was a bit touch and go, a bit exciting. got the adrenaline pumping, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very nice race. And of course, this classic GT and touring car style, a little bit of door rubbing, but never really something that, sent the other one out of the fight. So both of you very on edge. It was beautiful to see. Overall, just how much experience do you bring to the table overall to racing here with R-Factor 2?
In terms of R-Factor 2 and sim racing, not a lot. This is actually my fourth race. But I have been doing racing. It is part of my upbringing, my family. If it wasn't for my brother and who's my teammate and my dad, I wouldn't have the bug for racing. So I owe it to them really. But yeah, I used to race go-karts in real life, so that's where my racing know-how, well, some people might not call it know-how, but hey ho, that's where my knowledge of racing comes from. As far as sim racing, it's not a lot, honestly.
Yeah, but then always wonderful to see this change from a real motorsport as well to virtual. The reverse of what we see with something like the Nissan GT Academy, fitting as we had the Nissan GT4 as well in this race here.
For sure.
But yeah, fantastic race from you today, Christian. Thank you very much for joining us for this. And we hope we see you again in the future as well for another couple upcoming events.
You definitely will. I look forward to challenging, hopefully, in the future. It's been a pleasure, really.
We look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Right, next up we have, well, the untouchable man for this evening. Pole position by over a second, and in the end, I think almost, actually a 30-second lead almost, pretty much. Hans Anus.
Thank you.
How are you doing this evening? You can't be doing too badly.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was quite sleepy at the end, but pinching myself a couple of times woke me right up. So I don't know. I don't have much to say. Basically, it was one of those days where everything felt right, and it definitely showed in the lap times. And yeah, basically from start to finish, I was driving in my island on my own, in my lonely bubble. Yeah. Actually, there were a couple of Nissans scrapping around because their top speed is way higher than Alpine's, but it was alright.
Yeah, but overall, even in that bubble, as you put it, very difficult to always keep the concentration up. In the middle, we saw, the gap coming down a little bit because Christian Sharp, Corentin Berges, they were starting to get faster lap times than you again, and then, basically, like out of a gun, the response came shot out with you coming with the next fastest lap. And of course, overall, you saw people starting to pit and then the gap starting to go down again. Was that basically your signal to pit as well?
Basically, yes. Well, actually, most of the time loss came from the problem that I was catching up those guys, slower guys who were just coming out of the pits. So I was losing like 2 seconds per lap for like 2 laps straight. And it definitely felt I felt that, but fortunately, I had my lead was enough to keep it comfortable for me.
Yeah, in the end, even with everything considered, in the pit stop phase, you gained around 10 seconds to second place. Great drive from you, nevertheless. Just quickly, be honest with us as well. Like, what's your experience level with the Alpine? Because this can't be the first time you drove this car.
Well, with sim racing in general, I started in, what happened after, like during that moment, when Corona and everything hit. Well, with this car, I don't know. Actually, it just felt right, and actually the speed came up super quickly. I did maximum 20 laps before this race, and actually luckily making the setup was quite straightforward with this car, and yeah, it felt great.
So car just felt right. Very quick adaptability as well from Hans Hannes. Well, as you'd expect from the man who dominated today's race. Really wonderful racecraft, of course. And yeah, with this, once again, congratulations. We hope we'll see you again on track, Hans.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely we'll see.
On that note, we will be closing for tonight. This was a very entertaining race. We hope you all at home enjoyed it as well. From us here at World Pro Racing, of course, a wonderful evening, night, or whatever time of day it is for you. Of course, first of all, we do a quick shout out to the sponsors who make all of this possible: AMD, HyperX, GT Omega Racing, Thrustmaster, and Gaming Malta, and of course our broadcasting partners, ESTV, the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV, and TVM Sport. If you want to get involved with this, of course, follow us on social media, join the Discord, sign up on the website, and keep on the lookout for next upcoming events. There's something for everyone here. From Simon and from myself, of course, have a wonderful night and whatever daytime it is, and we hope we'll see you again next time.
Definitely. Our next race will be Friday with the HyperX Open Series, so we hope to see you then.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.